the point at which you become a man is the point at which you accept that everything in your life is down to you. That's when you become an adult. Before that point, you're a child because you're always blaming or saying, oh, it's because of this or it's because of that, or if that hadn't have happened or whatever. You're a child. You're just asking your parent to validate, is it all right that I feel sad? Or, once you just go, do you know what? If I feel sad, that's on me. I need to figure out how to not feel sad. You're an adult.
Sometimes growth isn't about doing more. It's about seeing more clearly. In this episode, I sit down with Jason Moe to explore podcasting, freedom of expression, and the courage to challenge common narratives. We dive into fear, energy, consciousness, manifestation, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, happiness, and what it really means to grow into manhood and walk the hero's journey. Timestamps are in the description for easy navigation. If you enjoy this one, support the mission. Please kindly subscribe and leave a review. It helps the show grow, and that means that we can reach more men who are ready to take that next step. Thank you so much. I'm Harrison, and this is the Growth Voyage Podcast. Enjoy. Okay, the red light is on. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. How does it feel being in the guest seat for once?
Feels awesome. I sat on that side. I think I did 130, something like that, episodes. And then we had the old format initially where Tom was in the booth. And then we swapped to this one probably for the last 60, 70 shows, something like that. So I sat on that side and I had a much worse chair than you. You've got an awesome chair.
Yeah.
I had the white stool, which was okay, but I always felt a bit like I was like a teacher, a science teacher or something.
Well, I remember watching the first episode back and we had that stool. And I remember thinking my posture is terrible because you've really got to stand up straight, and I was slouched over.
Yeah, but also because your guest is down, right? Especially for you because you're taller. So you're trying to, I think this is the thing, when you kind of have a conversation, if you're engaged with someone, you sort of mirror them, right? So you cross your legs, I cross my legs, you slouch, I slouch, whatever. So it was always a little bit difficult with that, with the difference on the eye levels. But yeah, now you got the awesome chair and I got the awesome couch, so I'm happy.
Yeah, we're nice and cozy. And for context, you ran White Basement Pod for, was it well over 100 episodes? Yeah,
I think it was about 125-ish, something like that, by the time I took an impermanent, I'll say, break from it. So it was like I put out one a week. I managed to get out one a week every week. So that was 2.5 years, whatever it was, 2 years and a few months. So yeah.
It was a wicked podcast. I love the themes that you discussed, like all these wacky conspiracies and ideas, and yeah, it ended up getting pulled from YouTube, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. They don't tell you why. I mean, I should imagine it was probably one of the many episodes when, I don't even know where yours goes out. I won't even say it because it's still a bit weird, but the 2019 weirdness that happened, I had a lot of episodes about that. And I don't think there was really anything else that was that edgy, really. It was like martial arts, alternative healing, few bits and bobs. I mean, to be fair, there was one about, there was two, in fact, with the same guy, and he's an alternative healer, and he treats the illness with the letter C using non-approved methods. And after we did it, he said to me, "This is going to get pulled off YouTube." And that, I was, and I still am, like a real conspiracy theory person. But you're kind of like, that applies to other people, not me. And he said, "This is going to get pulled off YouTube." And I said, "No, of course it won't. Why would it get pulled off YouTube?" Like 4 days later, I'm editing and I've got the YouTube window open because you're looking how many downloads of people watching, refresh it. I refresh it and it's not there. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Refresh it again. Then you get a message saying we've removed this episode because it's whatever it violates our terms and conditions or something. And I messaged him and I said, it's got removed. And he said, I told you. So, but I think probably in the end, I think with YouTube, they have like a 2 strikes or a 3 strikes kind of policy. So that obviously was my first one. And then whatever it was the second one, where literally same thing, I'm editing, I refresh my page and it says this page don't exist. And I'm like, that's probably not great. Check the email. Email says we've deleted your page permanently. You can appeal here. Press appeal. You write a message, could you tell me what, blah, blah, blah. 0.001 microseconds later, you get the response back. Your appeal's been reviewed and we're sticking with our decision. We know this might be upsetting for you, but go F yourself. And that was it. It was gone.
Well, I've been fortunate, touch wood. Nothing's happened as of yet. Double touch wood. The only ones I have had was when I used stock image when the video ran out.
Like a copyright.
Yeah, and it was banned in Russia. Not the UK, not the EU, just Russia. And then some technicalities with the intro music, but they actually listened to my appeal there. But that was on Spotify.
Oh, interesting.
They were quite nice about it. But it does beg the question, what were they trying to censor? Now, you see this argument of, well, you can't spread false information, it's dangerous. But then on the other side, it's the whole argument about free speech, freedom of expression, right?
Well, yes. I think my current sort of position, which is probably quite similar to, hasn't changed that much. I think really the world that we live in, the existence that we are experiencing is completely inverted by the powers that be. So, and I said this a lot, when I was talking to people when I was on my pod, was that generally if you do the opposite of what authority in inverted commas tells you to do, you'll be pretty good. You'll be pretty safe. You'll be pretty happy. You'll be pretty successful. You'll be pretty comfortable in your own skin, whatever. It's not foolproof. It doesn't apply to absolutely everything. If, the fire brigade people tell you, listen, don't leave like all the gas on when you go out with pots of oil on there. And that's good advice. You should listen to that. But a lot of stuff that we are told is inverted, literally. It's the opposite of what good, genuine advice would be. You can make different. You can look at different theories of why that is the case. But generally speaking, what we are told, I think, is not good advice. So, if you are, not that I sort of put myself on a pedestal that I was doing anything special, but if you try to share or get out knowledge that you feel is genuine good advice, don't be surprised if people start jumping on you and saying, well, no, you can't say that. Well, okay, you're going to keep saying it, then we're going to just ban you or label you as conspiracy theorist. Or you look at someone like Russell Brand, and this happened to lots of people, right? Russell Brand was an establishment figure, right? Womanizer, partying, doing drugs, the new messiah, whatever. Yeah, he's cool, right? He's a rock guy. Everyone likes him, and he's in these movies. Then he starts waking up. Then he starts asking questions. Then he starts going, I found Jesus and I'm going to become a Christian. Then he starts challenging the narratives around the 2019 period. Suddenly he's a rapist, sex pest, this and that. People are coming out of the woodwork, left, right and centre. Same thing happened with Julian Assange. Same thing happened with, name your person, where as soon as you start to tell the truth and wake people up, And that waking up of people, it does depend on your reach. You know, my podcast was a teeny tiny little speck. You know, it was a local show, and it pretty much was a local audience. You know, it was Jiu-Jitsu people and people that had been on and their friends and whatever. So I was never really going to catch any heat for it. I was just going to get like, listen, just sack this one off, just cancel it, and no one's going to care, and off it goes. So to me, that kind of says, yeah, well, I was on the right path. I was putting good information out because it got cancelled. Like if they're ignoring it, I'm probably just putting out generic, same as everybody else stuff. So, you know, that's not to rubbish any of the channels that don't get banned, because everything I watch isn't banned, and I love it. I love the car shows, and I love the crypto shows, and I love the whatever, you know, loads of stuff that I watch that's perfectly fits in line with the mainstream narratives, and, you know, happily is on YouTube and everywhere else. But, you know, I kind of took it a little bit as a badge of honor, like, yeah, show me.
Yeah. It does make me think as well, in terms of your content, perhaps the polarization, again, it sparks a reaction, and it starts a debate. I feel like when we're small and we don't make our voice heard, that's when we run the risk of fitting in, not really pursuing our dreams, what we're really passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, most content is fairly middle of the road. So whether that be middle of the road car channels, or middle of the road psychology channels, or middle of the road exercise bodybuilding channels, or whatever, you know, there is some edgy stuff. But I think where the difficulty comes is, are you trying to build an audience of just numbers of people? You've got regular people watching, and once you get a certain amount, then you can start to monetize it and start to get some adverts and generate some revenue and whatever. Or are you saying, like, I want to do what I want to do because I want to do what I want to do. And if it makes money, it makes money. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And if it gets banned from YouTube, it gets banned from YouTube. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, I was always very much coming at it from the side of, so I was like, and still am, a massive like Joe Rogan fan. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast from, I don't know when, but in the early days when it was him and Brian Redban doing it from his house, and they got sponsored by Fleshlight, which is the like masturbation thing, right? And they used to do this little commercial at the beginning of everyone. You're going to jerk off, you might as well use this. They got a new zombie one, whatever. It was like when it was proper, like low key. No one was really sort of into it. And so I was, when I was thinking about, and when we actually started doing the podcast, I was like, I just want to do it like that. I just want to get a sort of a comfortable space, get people in and have a conversation with them. No real agenda of, I want it to be about this or about that, or I don't want to cover certain things, or I do want to cover other things. I just was like, I want to talk to interesting people and learn stuff and engage with people. Because of the podcast, because I really enjoyed listening to his. I thought I'll kind of want to do the same thing. If you enjoy something, you want to maybe replicate it a little bit. Because, I mean, I don't know, it probably is still the same for your generation, but certainly for my generation, you know, when I was young, no phones, no computers, like there's no nothing. One of my patients at work actually said to me once, which I remember, said when I was a kid, the first half of your Saturday was trying to find where your friends were. So you get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, have a little quick bit of breakfast, get on your bicycle. For me, I go down to Cherry Tree Woods, like this little park, sort of 5 minutes on the bike. Cherry Tree Woods. No one here. Okay. If they're not at Cherry Tree Woods, they might be Ali Pali, Muswell Hill. This is like a 25-minute ride. It's a bit more of a commitment. Or Clark's Park, which is 7 minutes from Cherry Tree Woods. So I'm like, let me go Clark's Park because, you know, it's only 7 minutes. But this was kind of how it was. So when you actually met up with people, you're hanging out with them for the day. And you've got nothing. It's literally, okay, shall we ride back to Cherry Tree Woods? Okay, let's go back to Cherry Tree Woods. We can stop at John's, the corner shop. We'll get an ice lolly or whatever. We go Cherry Tree Woods. We just play on the swings or play on the super dangerous 70s, 80s playgrounds that they used to have. But you'd just sit and have like these long form, rambling, whatever conversations. And those are like the formative experiences of me and my friends, of like growing from a kid into an adult and having these big long conversations. And sometimes someone will tell you something and it'll blow your mind, or you'd just go away and be chewing on something for a while and it would open another door or another pathway for you. So I kind of wanted to have that as well. And I didn't want to do kind of like short form, it's 1 hour, we're going to cover like these bullet points, because a bit like what we were saying before we started recording, it just feels then like a work call. Like this is the agenda. Okay, we need to cover this, and then we've got like roughly 8 minutes for each thing. Wasn't my deal.
Well, it ties in again to your childhood in a way. There's this sense of exploration, see where it goes. And similar to myself, the first couple episodes I did, I had a notepad and I had an idea of what I was going to discuss. Didn't look at it once. And from then, I just never really planned something out. I'd maybe have an idea of what I'd want to discuss. But when you let the conversations flow, you end up in these fun rabbit holes. And I think there's more joy there, at least for myself, probably for the guest as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what I found, my sort of experience journey, whatever, from doing the podcast was that I evolved myself, through the first, 20, 30 episodes, because exactly that, because you've got an idea of how you want it to go. And then it sort of goes a bit different, which might be better or might be worse or whatever. But especially when I would come back and edit them and I was like, oh, like I keep interrupting, or I keep saying, okay, that's the point you made is good, but let me ask the question that I wanted to ask 7 minutes ago, which everyone else has forgotten about, including you. And I was like, okay, I need to just sort of be a little bit more kind of, free, sort of flowing. And I mean, what I found as well, like one of the sort of very vivid sort of moments I found, in fact, there's two. One was that quite often, like someone would say something, they'd tell a story, whatever, and I would have a hilariously funny retort. But they would keep talking. And then I was like, but I want to tell my joke because my joke is awesome. But then I was like, no, you can't tell the joke because now it doesn't work because we've gone on to something else. So you got to just
bring it back 7 minutes later.
Yeah, you got to just, no one will ever know how good your joke was except for you. Be content with that. So that was the one thing. And the second thing was if you watch, I think he still does it, but if you watch Rogan when he does podcasts, and when he does a little bit when he interviews after UFC, but certainly when he does podcasts, I used to think, why does he do this weird like nodding turtle? Because he's a bit, if you actually look at him, he's a bit odd looking now. He's bald, yoked up. He's a bit sort of strange looking. And people will be talking, or he's interviewing or whatever, and they'd be speaking, and he's just doing this weird kind of not smile, not smile, nodding thing. And then what I realized was when I was editing my podcasts that normally when people talk, you have, I think it's called active listening, where that's exactly what you did, right? You're acknowledging what I said to sort of encourage me to keep talking. You're sort of going, okay, so I'm interested in this. Yeah, tell me more. But if you go, when you come to edit it, it's like, why the fuck am I just keep saying every minute? So, right, literally, I had this, it took me 6 months before I got to it. So what I realized was, he's doing active listening that the guest can see, but no one else has to deal with.
Wow.
He's nodding. So I started doing it. I was like, people would talk and I'd be, and I'll do the gesture, but without the because it makes the audio better. It's nicer for people to listen to, and it's easier to edit because you don't have to go every 15 seconds, take your sound on your one down to 0, bring it back up again, take it down to 0, bring it back up again. If you just shut up, it lets it flow better.
It does. Although I'd like to think I use the ums when I'm, like, for me, it's like genuine, like, because that's hit home for me. So I'd like to think I don't overuse it. Maybe my listeners would agree.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like it's right or wrong, but it was something that I sort of noted. I didn't know why he did it until I was doing them, and then I was like, I think I don't. Maybe it's not. But I think that's why he does it, because it doesn't mess the audio up. Because he's very. If you listen to a lot of his shows, when the audio is bad, like he has a proper hissy fit. He has a proper strop. There's been a couple of times on the earlier ones where something happened and he's like, if the audio's not good, people are not going to listen to it. And they leave it in there. But, he was very finicky about the audio being beautiful to listen to. And I think that's why he just nods instead of having a little verbal cue. Because normally you do a little verbal cue and a little like visible cue with your body language to encourage someone to speak or to say, yes, like I agree with you, but carry on.
Makes you think there's so many different nuances that go into this stuff that you might not even think about. And this is why I think feedback is so important, because it depends how much you talked about your podcast with people, but I found it so valuable when you've got someone who will just give you that feedback. But I think you have to kind of ask for it, because sometimes people won't go out of their way to mention it, but then as soon as that comes to your attention, you're like, oh yeah, I wish someone had told me that earlier. I think that applies to life generally, really.
I mean, that is kind of the sort of like coaching, right? Like if you will get good feedback from people who don't do podcasts or don't do a lot of podcasts or whatever, but you'll probably get better feedback from people who either do podcasts or they go on a lot of podcasts, because they've just got more experience. Like if you roll with someone and it's their first class ever, and then you ask them for feedback at the end, they might give you something kind of half useful, probably not. But if you roll with someone, that's been training for 10 years or 5 years or 6 months or 20 years, they're more likely to be able to give you better feedback. And I think for me, the sort of negative side to that was like, once I've had the conversation and I edited it, I didn't want to necessarily engage again with the same person and go over the same stuff again. So if it was with different people giving me feedback on an episode, I sort of found that more easier to digest and chew on than if, I've just spent 2.5 hours talking to someone, I just spent 10 hours editing it, and then I had to go back and do a bit again. So that was like another hour. And then I don't really want to have another conversation with them for another 2 hours about what they thought about like this and that. It's like, I need to just cut it and go to the next one.
You can get an information overload, I suppose.
No, I don't know. I don't even know if it was information overload as much as like, that's enough. Like how much, like I love chocolate. There's always a point where I go, I don't want another piece of chocolate. I had too much chocolate. I need something else, something salty or whatever it is, but the chocolate's done for now. So I kind of found, and maybe as well, I don't know what your schedule of doing them, but because I was doing sort of one a week, I was like, I'm going to commit 20 hours a week to this. Like every week, I can't miss it. And some weeks I'll do 2 or 3 episodes because either I'm away or someone can't do one, or there's a grading I want to go to, whatever it is, like I'm not going to be able to get in. So I've got a full-time job and I'm doing 20 to 40 hours in a week to get an episode's done. And, it was like, once it's done, it's done. Like go back and, maybe I will listen to something back later, but yeah, no, not so much.
There were quite a few questions that arose as I was listening to you. One of them was your thoughts on unsolicited advice, because on the one hand, one way to approach life would be, well, if no one's asked for your advice, then you wouldn't give it. But then on the other hand, I'm thinking, if someone came up to me and said, oh, there's something about your podcast I really noticed, which I think could really help, I would really appreciate that. And I've started surrounding myself with people who, when I first met them, I've realized they're quite blunt, because they'll just tell me how it is. And maybe it depends on the person, but that's the sort of thing which is really valuable.
I would say that there's probably a lot of factors, but there's probably two main factors. One is from the other person and one is from you. The factor from the other person is, what is their intention? And the factor from you is, how's your ego? So if their intention is they want to help your podcast to be better, amazing. And if your ego is in a point where you're like, I'm obviously not Joe Rogan, because otherwise I would be Joe Rogan, I probably could do with some feedback and some advice and some ideas. I don't have to take them, but I should be receptive to them. I should consider them. I should give them the sort of respect that they deserve, that somebody has taken the time, number one, to listen to my podcast. Number two, to bother to message me or phone me or call me, or next time I bump into them at class to tell me or whatever. I mean, a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't like the way he does that. But they're like, I can't be asked to tell him. Like, who cares? If someone actually makes the effort to come to you and go, oh, bro, I listened to your podcast. You know what you should think about doing is putting a light here instead of there. Because when I was watching it on my phone, it was really hard to see the guy's eyes or whatever. Like, people don't actually have to kind of go out their way to tell you. If the advice is, bro, shouldn't do your podcast anymore, it's shite, you can probably disregard it, because it's not, the intention is not good. The intention is negative, and that intention belays more about that person. You should probably give them a little hug or give them a slap or whatever, but you don't need to really take anything from them, because there's a negative energy. If it's a positive thing, yeah, unsolicited advice, just as good as solicited advice.
How good have you become at reading people in terms of their intentions and their energy? And how has that process been for you? How long has that taken to get to?
It's weird, right? Because I want to say that I always have been excellent at it. I don't know whether I have or not, because it's only my experience. So you might talk to like 20 other people that know me and they go, I don't know what he's talking about. He always misjudges people, can't get nothing right. But this is basically like what I was saying to you before we started, why I don't like having telephone conversations with people. Because if I speak to someone on the phone, I almost feel like I can't hear them. I almost feel like I'm just not really digging this. I can't, the timing's weird and just everything's off. I might as well just be, I don't know, like playing a computer game or something. If I'm sit with someone and I look at someone and I feel the person's energy and all of that stuff, and I think, a lot of it is unconscious, and not even just unconscious, but just you almost throw it away, but you just kind of don't. I think I've always, well, let's put it this way. I've always been able to meet someone and after 10 seconds, I can either tell you I like them or I don't like them. Like not necessarily even exploring it any further, but I can just meet someone and just go, I don't like that person. And I can meet someone else and just go, that dude's awesome. I think he's a really cool guy, or I think she's amazing, or I think she's a CUNT.
What's that feeling? Is that you listening to your body? Do you think it's intuition, discernment, mix of all three? Well,
it's difficult, right? Because I had this sort of conversation a couple of times on my podcast where I said, I'm not the kind of person that wants to go through life with a ruler. I don't like going through life with a tape measure and saying, if I can't tell you how many centimeters it is, then obviously it's not real. Like there's loads of stuff that I wouldn't say is unmeasurable, but I'd say I can't measure it. But it doesn't mean it's not real. Like I can't measure love, but I can tell you, man, love is real. Love is a real, happiness is a real thing. When I had Richard Enyon on, who's the mushroom guy, the enriched mushrooms, who used to sponsor my show, and he said, but love is real, right? And they would say yes, and he'd say, so how many? Like you're saying you got to measure it. Well, love, how many love? Like, it defies measurement, but it's a thing, right? So with that kind of, like, what is it? How do you, I don't know. I don't know whether for me, there's not a formula. And if there is a formula, the formula is that there's no formula. The more I try to consolidate it, the more useless it is.
That's a good point. Do you think maybe we try and put everything into a box perhaps a bit too often, and some things actually don't fit in a box? And you can apply this at all levels of life generally, but then just saying, right, it must be this thing or this thing.
Yes, but certainly for myself, I've got better at not trying to put things in a box as I've got older. And again, I don't know if that's just my experience or that is what happens with age, with experience, with wisdom, with just having more time, is that you, or I should say me, I've become much less concerned with trying to write down the formula for something and much happier to just experience it, just go with the flow. Like, I don't necessarily feel that I need to tell anyone else the intuition I feel that I have when I meet people. Like, I don't really care. Like, if someone asked me, I could try to explain it, but it's not like I feel like, oh, I need to share this skill, gift, experience, whatever, with other people. So no, I just, it's cool. I like it. I enjoy it. When I'm right, I'm like, well, I'm good at this. And when I get it wrong, I'm like, wow, what was the thing? What was the thing that tripped me up where I thought this person was going to be a tosser, but actually they turned out, you know what it was? It was that. And that is normally a cue that I think I'm still going to apply that cue, because that was a weird little thing that I missed. You know, I will go back and sort of wonder, why did I get it wrong? But I would say I'm kind of like 99% right. I don't normally have to go back and second guess myself and think, like, oh, why did I misjudge that person? Judge is the wrong word, but misinterpret that person. I'm pretty good usually at just going, no, or, yeah, like, it's, yeah.
And did you notice quite a lot of tension then? Because it comes across like you've certainly got an open mind now, and expanding minds, questioning stuff. Have you always been like that? And if so, was there a bit of tension there between yourself and the society that you found yourself in, your environment? Where did that tension lie? And then where did that sort of curiosity come from?
I would never say that I've had tension between myself and like society or environment or whatever. And I think it probably comes from like 2-3 things. Like, one, as young as I can remember, I was quite kind of introverted and quite happy in my own sort of space. Like, I would sit in my room and play Lego for like 12 hours or draw or whatever for hours and hours and hours. Don't need to talk to no one, just in my own little world of like just doing what I want to do and, you know, making the things I want to make. So I think I always have had that type of personality, experience, whatever, where I'm like, I'm quite happy to just talk to myself and discuss with myself and then come up and say, yeah, you're actually quite smart. Wow, you're quite funny. You know, like, do all that stuff myself and then come to a thought and go, okay, well, are we happy? We're all happy. All right, good. We're there. My mum was always, my mum was a teacher, English teacher. So she was always quite good at engaging me and my sister and asking us questions and not just saying, I'll do this or do that, because, you know, saying, well, why are you doing it? And, you know, well, I noticed that you've started doing this. Like, why have you started doing this? Just, you know, to think about why your behavior or your thoughts or whatever is a certain way. And also from probably when I was like junior school, like the last 2 years of junior school, maybe, or 3 years, let's say. So I don't know, that's like 7 to 11. I got bullied a lot at school. So I became very like stubborn and very like, yeah, just wait. I don't need to worry about what you're doing. Like, wait till we're 15, wait till we're 20, wait till we're 53. Like, you know, I've got in my gym, I've got a picture bit of artwork that I did, I put up on the wall, and it's got, I forget the guys, it's one of the old school jiu-jitsu guys, but along the bottom it says, it's not about who's best, it's about who's left. I'm like, don't worry, I will just outlast you. I don't need to beat you today. I don't even need to beat you tomorrow, but in the end, I'm going to beat you. So I've always had that very like, whatever, say what you want, do what you want, have the propaganda on the telly. Every news channel is telling me I need to go and stick a needle in my arm. Doesn't even register. It's not even a momentary, or maybe I should, like, back to 9 years old and people calling me names, and I'm like, just wait. We'll see what happens in the end. Don't worry, I'll put in my book, it's in there. I won't forget. So I think I've always kind of had that personality type sort of thing where I don't really bother what everyone else is doing or saying or thinking or whatever. It's like I'm not everybody else. So I'm happy to sort of register it and be aware of it. Okay, there's this thing here, but it doesn't really affect me on a vibrational level.
And do you think that experience perhaps built up resilience maybe? I really resonate with just that feeling because I was bullied quite a lot when I was younger at school in various parts. And again, I always had this perspective, even though at times, you might rather it's not happening, of course, but I found I still had that feeling, just like, I know I'm going to be just fine. I know I'm going to do great. I always had that belief, is like, even though all the stuff was happening, I know I'm going to do great things, and I know I'm going there. It was always there, despite my outer reality at school and stuff not always reflecting that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the Churchill saying, if you're going through hell, keep going. I mean, you've only ever got three options, right? One is just keep sort of forging ahead. One is like completely change your path or whatever for whatever reason, and one is just give up. Like those are pretty much your three sort of. Doesn't matter what the situation is. You're trying to get to work and there's loads of traffic, or you've got a diagnosis of some horrible illness, or you're stuck under side control, or you're late for a meeting, or like whatever. You just go, right, no, sticking to my plan, I'm just going. Or you go, okay, listen, I need to make a different plan, and I'm going to do that. Or you just go, I'm done. Those are kind of your three things. And I think probably that's going to come down to like your personality type, your support system as well. So, maybe you're like, so I'm getting bullied at school, but my mum was awesome. My mum's like the best mum ever. So I was always like, man, when I get home, I'm in a loving space where I'm just, everything's good again. 20 seconds after I walk in the front door, like happy days. So if you don't have that, now it's a whole different story, right? Because you get one load of stress when you're engaged with other people, then you come home in inverted commas and you've got another. So you're going to have a completely different kind of environment. So I think it depends on your personality, and it depends on like what's your support systems. Now you're a kid and you've got one awesome friend. Man, you're good. It doesn't matter. You can have the whole world's against you. You and your awesome mate are just like, whatever, bro. I mean, how many friends do you need? Like 2, 3, 4, 5, like solid people. Man, that's like an army that can't be defeated.
You know what? I remember having this conversation with one of my best mates, and I said to him, I was like, I've been chatting to people recently. Some people actually don't have a best mate, and I hadn't taken it for granted because I always appreciated the connection, but I'd never given it that perspective before. Like, if you have somebody you can trust and you can just speak about whatever to, like that's gold. And I think you saying that's kind of given me a different perspective in a way, because I had all this stuff happening at school, and then I had that one guy, and we would go on the landline and we would speak for 2 hours, play Club Penguin or RuneScape or one of these games, and we had a great time. Yeah,
because then literally like all the other people, it's just noise. It's just stuff you've got to filter out to get through your day. You don't actually like if you think about it from the perspective of if your best mate turns around, says, actually, like, you smell, don't like you, this and that, you're really boring, well, that's going to break you. Or it's going to be much, you're going to have to go like, are you David Goggins or are you not? But as long as that guy is like, bro, let's just go home and play RuneScape, man, everything else is just like, all I hear all day is just like, nah, 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 nah. But it doesn't bother me. It just annoys me. It's just like, it would be nicer if I don't have to deal with this nonsense. But I mean, everyone has to deal with nonsense. So these lot are my nonsense I have to deal with, but I go home and do this. For a lot of people, that's jiu-jitsu is that. I mean, this was loads of the conversations that I had with jiu-jitsu people were literally very specifically, very definitely, man, jiu-jitsu is my just whatever's going on, that's fine. I leave it with my work shoes and my work bag outside the gym. I go in, I put my gear and I'm just with my people, with my tribe. And I'm just physical, let's just have a proper experience. And then you come out and you're like, man, life is good.
I really feel that. And it's funny, I was talking to my girlfriend about this because, there's after jiu-jitsu, I'll see her and it's like, I'm like a refreshed person. I've like come back to my center in a way. And I think once you say that, even speaking to the guys, the resistance, I think it's the same place for everyone. That's their happy place, right? That's their community. That's their outlet. It's so important. And I think a cool part to that as well is that, especially when you first join, people don't actually know you outside of that. And so you haven't got all this old past identity stuff that people who've known you for longer, there's none of that. There's none of those projections. You're just you. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so great. In addition to all the other benefits jiu-jitsu brings you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably kind of like, I've never done like a AA or anything like that, but I think it's kind of like that, if you go into one of those sorts of meetings, not the breakdown recovery people, the alcoholics, where you just sort of go in and sit down and go, my name's Jason, I'm an alcoholic. You don't go in and sit down and go, my name's Jason, I'm an optician, my dad was from South Africa. It's just like, I'm an alcoholic. Like you go into jiu-jitsu and you go in and you go, my name's Jason, I'm a brown belt. Like that's the equivalent, right? And then everyone's like, all right, let's see what that brown belt looks like. How tall's the guy? How old's the guy? How much does he weigh? All right. I look at you with a blue belt and I'm like, I'm not rolling with him. Like this just looks like danger. But I'm not making an assessment because it's like, well, because I heard that he used to be a doorman. It's just because I look at you and I go, this looks like a handful for me. So it is, you're just in that sort of jiu-jitsu space, right? Where you just take people for sort of, as you find them and you're like, let's roll.
I think it ties in with...
Or let's not roll.
Roll, let's not. Ties in with traveling as well. And I think when you're in that space, you even subconsciously create a new identity for yourself. Because now suddenly to these guys, well, who are you? You're a guy who comes to jiu-jitsu, you're disciplined, you're resilient, you win some roles, you lose some, doesn't matter, but you're showing up. And I think that does something to you internally, I believe. And it's funny, every guy I've spoken to on the pod who's had a big transformation story, it all started with martial arts.
Yeah, I mean, my martial arts started when I was 17. Like I'm light now. I'm 68 kilos now, but I always was little, skinny, not physically gifted at all. Obviously, Bruce Lee's my hero, right? Little, skinny, whatever. It can beat up everybody in one go. So I was always like, oh, martial arts are cool. Martial arts I wanted to do. Never really found anything good. I did like a little bit of judo when I was a kid, 10 to 13 years old or whatever. Become 14, get a Commodore 64, don't want to go judo no more. Like you grow out of things. But then I started doing Kung Fu when I was 17 and I loved it. I just was obsessed with it for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years until I qualified and had to go to work and was completely exhausted and was like, I can't really go training anymore. But yeah, martial arts, the whole sort of value, let's say, of martial arts over and above other physical pursuits is like the internal reflection and the one-on-one with dire consequences, obviously within your rule set, but of getting it wrong. So, you know, if you really commit to playing football or you really commit to skateboarding or whatever, you're still going to become physically fit and disciplined, and you got to turn up to training, and, you know, you got to practice doing your flips over and over and over, you know, whatever it is. But you don't have that, like, get on the mat with someone else and they're going to try and subdue you, and you're going to try and subdue them, and one of you is going to win and one of you is going to lose, and there ain't no, oh, but this or oh, but that. It's like, no. Once you beat me, we both accept, like, you beat me. So this really forces your ego to just go, listen, you can stay, but you're just going to need to stay in this little box over here, right? I mean, we're not like we need you to completely go, because a bit of ego is important and it's valuable and it's useful, but you're going to have to just, like, go in my pocket for a bit. You can come out after, because otherwise, I mean, you see it all the time, right? People come in, they're there for 6 weeks, you never see them again. Because after they got their shit beat out of them for 6 weeks, they're like, I can't take this. Like, I don't want to come in and get beaten up. I mean, when I first started training jiu-jitsu, I first started training maybe nearly 20 years ago. Started training, got stacked over my neck, first class, stuck it out for about 3 months and had to stop training. And I couldn't train for about 10 years because my neck was just completely battered. But I remember Eddie Cohn, who his club, he said, like, when you come with your white belts are food for blue belts. Blue belts are food for purple belts are food for brown belts are, you know, everyone's food for black belts. Like, that's just how it is. If you just don't want to get eaten alive for a couple of years, it's not for you. Just find something else. There's no, you can't sort of sugarcoat it and say, oh, think of it like this, think of it like that. This is what I was saying to you. For me, every time someone new walks in with a white belt who's like a normal sized human, I'm just like, oh, it's like when you go to like a restaurant and you walk in, there's like, you see like a nice steak there or something. You're like, oh, I'm going to have that steak. That looks so good. Same thing. I'm just like, I'm going to smash this guy. I'm not going to try and hurt them. I'm not going to try and do anything sort of unkind. But man, this is my food. This is my food. And to maybe try to put a positive spin on that, because maybe it sounds a little bit negative. My first experience of jiu-jitsu, of actually doing it, was when someone cross-faced me. It's very clear. It wasn't even at a jiu-jitsu class. I was making a self-defense video for, do you know who Jeff Thompson is? Watch My Back, The Doorman. Book recommendation, Watch My Back, Jeff Thompson. You'd love it. It's an amazing book. For young men, it's probably one of the best books you'll ever read. I'll send you a link for it. Complete loser, lived in Coventry, got beat up by his wife, got sexually abused by his karate teacher when he was a kid, working in a factory, sweeping factory floors, total loser. One day he decides, I don't want this life anymore. He draws a pyramid, fear pyramid, steps on the pyramid. On every step, he puts the things in his life that he either wants to change or he's afraid of. And then he goes through them one by one, packs up his job, leaves his relationship, etc., etc. Top of his pyramid is a fear of physical confrontation. Goes to the worst club in Coventry, asks them, can I work the door for one night? They say yes. He stays for 20 years. He becomes the head doorman, becomes the guy for the whole of the north of England who they would send to problem clubs to fix them. He's a 12-stone guy. He's not a big guy. He developed this system mainly around this thing he called the fence, which is a physical... You're going to love it. Anyway, two of his top students, Tony Summers, Matty Robinson, maybe I want to say, they were making a DVD. Through someone, they ring me up and go, we're making a DVD. Will you come and... I was doing a bit of video work. Will you come and do it? I was like, yeah, man, like Jeff Thompson already was one of my heroes. I was like, yeah, amazing. Anyway, we make some video. They both do a bit of grappling. I'm asking a question about grappling. Matty puts me on my back and just cross-faces me like really hard. And I was like, oh my God, I could die here. and no one would even know I was dying. And I probably wouldn't even know I was dying until I was dead, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I was like, this is magic. This guy's like a wizard, and that's like a magic spell that he just did on me. And I'm like, oh, I have no defense against wizard jiu-jitsu magic. I need to learn how to do that. And I was already aware of jiu-jitsu because I'd watched UFC 1 and Royce Gracie was my other hero. And I was like, one day I'm going to do jiu-jitsu. But when I felt it, something clicked of like, because I always thought when someone's under side control, I would just stand up. You go, oh, if I was that, I would stand up and then I would throw a left hook or whatever. And then when someone puts you under side control and you're like, oh, you can't stand up. Well, I do. No, you can't do that either. Well, no, you can't do that either. Oh, you're stuck here. If you don't know how to get out from here, you're in a bad, bad position. And so I feel like I want to give that gift to the new guy when he walks in. I want to be the first person to cross-face him so hard that he either knows I'm not coming back again, or he knows when's the next class.
Because you're better off knowing straight away.
He either feels like this is not for me, or he feels like that guy's a wizard. And that was like a magic trick, and I want to learn how to do the magic.
Yeah.
You know, that for me, that was such an amazing experience. I'm like, well, share the love, share the shoulder of justice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're kind of,
Maybe that's how I just justify it to myself, just beating up white belts. But it comes from a good place.
Yeah,
I never do it, like I said before, with the intention. I never do it with a bad intention. I do it with the intention of somebody being able to see, like someone like me who comes with my work clothes, little skinny old dude going bald, got my glasses on, got a bad back, got bad knees, got bad shoulders. Man, if I cross-face you, you're still getting cross-faced. And then you either think this is for me or it's not for me.
Well, I suppose you're going to learn that lesson at some point along the journey anyway, so you might as well learn it on your first day.
If you don't learn it from me, he's going to learn it from you.
Yeah,
you're heavier than I am, so I feel again like I'm doing him a favour.
But it's the most rewarding thing. I remember, similar to yourself in a way, I remember the first session and we went to sparring. And I was like, hang on, I don't know any submissions. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they just said, just try and survive, basically. So I'm there. They're trying to do all these like technical takedowns. And I'm just there like, nah, go away. And I'm struggling. And I remember, your first one, you start getting all tense and your nervous system goes crazy. And you're a brown belt. So you've been doing it for...
Now's about 9 years.
9 years. Yeah. And I don't know how often you reflect on it, but when you look back and you think of that progress compared to, white belt and then blue belt and then purple, just going through that over time, it must be really rewarding, I imagine.
It is. It's, again, like when I have these conversations with myself, long form conversations in my own head about things, and I think, if I get to black belt, will I make a speech? What speech will I make? Would I talk about this? Maybe I'll tell this story. I should remember that, and I go through this whole thing. But it's quite interesting because at the beginning, you don't know what you're doing. Like it took me really 18 months, 2 years to just understand, like just learn the alphabet. Can't speak, can't write, can't read, like just the alphabet, just, underhook, not overhook. Turn into the guy, don't turn away from the guy. I was just doing the wrong stuff habitually and naturally, just over and over and over again, and just trying to recondition myself to just your real sort of basics of not making the fundamental kind of mistakes. And then once you got that, then you're kind of a bit more like, let me try and write a sentence. Let me try and write a paragraph. Let me try and write a story. Let me try and write a joke. Like you once you've sort of got your basic pieces, then you start to kind of embellish it and develop it and whatever. And I think that's, that's probably the journey for a lot of martial arts, but jiu-jitsu and probably other grappling as well, more so because it's so kind of multi-layered. Even the sort of best boxers, I'm probably going to piss off all the boxing guys, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 punch combination with 3 bits of footwork in there or whatever, and then you reset. Whereas, you know, at jiu-jitsu, if you're rolling with someone, it could be 300 sort of moves and adjustments and things like easily that happen within a minute or a couple of minutes of this and then this, and how tired you are and how heavy they are and how sweaty you are, and you done worked back yesterday, so your grips are not great, so usually you'd have this grip but now your arm's burning. There's so many sort of variables in how it goes that you're just kind of getting better at being able to explore stuff. Like one of the best people to roll with, I find, is Jack. So what maybe to backtrack a little bit, what I find with jiu-jitsu, what I said with jiu-jitsu is that rolling with someone is like, it's a physical conversation. So after you roll with someone, like if me and you roll and then someone says, okay, now like you both go over there and write down on a piece of paper 10 things about this person, you'd be able to write 10 things about me and I'll be able to write 10 things about you. It's a physical conversation. I'll be able to say how aggressive you are, how tired you were, how much concentration, you know, how your movement is, whether you got some injuries or something, whether you just wanted to get on top and just like squash me, or you keep going for submissions or whatever. I can probably infer quite a lot of stuff about you after rolling with you. So rolling with someone is like a physical conversation. So coming back to what we were saying at the beginning, do I come in to my sessions very programmatically saying, I want to discuss this, this, and this, and this, and I'm not listening to that, and if he says that, I'm going to walk out? Or do I just come in and go, oh, Harrison, how you doing, bro? And then we chat. And if you roll with Jack Burrell, this is what you'll get. You'll just get, how you doing? This is how Jack rolls. If you roll with, Mike, right? Mike's a good example. Mike normally will be like, I don't want to discuss this. I don't want to discuss that. If you even mention this, I'm going to lose my shit. In the way that Mike, usually when I roll with him, which isn't very often, I can tell he's got an intention. He's practicing knee slices and he's practicing chair sit back take and then whatever, arm locking me without me being able to tap or something. Like I know that's what he's doing. And half the time, 3/4 of the time, that's exactly what he does to me, even though I know what he's trying to do. Whereas with Jack, I never know what's going to happen. I never know whether he's going to try to do nothing and just see what I'm doing, or whether he's going to try to get 5 leg locks in 5 minutes, or whether he's going to try to get almost completely submitted and then escape, and within the escape get a submission without getting back to a neutral position. Like you never know, right? He's just like, good evening. And then after that, it's a mystery, right? You'll find out at the end of it. So it's an experience of having a physical chat with people, and the more vocabulary you have, and the more able you are to think and digest what people are saying and visualize concepts and listen and then respond, and the better you'll be at talking to people, right? Same with jiu-jitsu.
And it all comes from lived experience, and it's a good always
mat time.
That's it.
That's your mat time.
That's it. And you're only going to, again, sounds obvious, but it's the clear path, right? You've got to go through those challenges. You've got to go through those lessons over and over to then build up the wisdom to then be able to put up a better fight next time or become a better fighter. And I've always likened it a lot to life generally. You've kind of got to try stuff out. You've got to go through some ups and downs and then figure out, okay, what do you want in life? What types of opportunities do you want? Do you really want this thing? Well, here's the challenge you have to go through to get to it. And I wouldn't say like an absence of fear, but I think if you're feeling the fear, then I usually take that as a sign that, yeah, I ought to be doing this. With jiu-jitsu, for example, like the idea of me sparring with these guys, blue belts at the time, it was, that was a big deal. And I took that as a signal as, okay, if it's scary, then I've got to do it. Like the fear is the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's that kind of process where you'll move towards discomfort. The growth is in the discomfort. There's no growth in comfort. So if you always do stuff that's comfortable, it's comfortable because it's easy and it's familiar and you've done it before. So you're probably not going to learn much from it. You may still enjoy it. So you may still be like, I don't know, you just like going fishing, sitting on your own, don't talk to no one, whatever, because you sort of enjoy it, and that's fine. You know, this is in fact probably one of the most important things, is being able to actually find stuff that you genuinely enjoy, that makes you happy, and just being comfortable doing it. But in terms of growth, you know, if you're saying like, I want to become this. And I was very much more like that when I was younger. My favorite stories and movies are always the origin story. I'm a sucker for, or it doesn't matter how garbage it is, when Peter Parker turns into Spider-Man, when Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, when, you know, whoever, somebody who's a nobody becomes a somebody. I'm like, I have a tear in my eye. Like, you know, someone who's a sort of a normal person, a bit of a loser, whatever, becomes like something awesome. I'm like, this is my favorite story. This is just like, I love it. So if you want that, that's from the discomfort, right? For Peter Parker to become Spider-Man, he goes through a lot of shit. For Bruce Wayne to come through Batman, like both his parents have to get killed in front of him. Then he has to go to wherever he end up going to in the movie, like out of Hebrides somewhere, getting beaten up by Liam Neeson for 6 months, you know, blah, 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 to become Batman. So if you want to become Batman, then yes, you got to go through the fire. Like that's where those sort of strong, larger than life sort of personalities are forged. You might just want to be Peter Parker, right? Just taking photos for the newspaper and kind of people just leave you alone. And that's fine as well. And I think that's the thing that again, I say I, that's the thing that I've come to be more aware of and happy with and content with is as I get older, is like, sometimes you just want to just do whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to create anything. It doesn't have to lead anywhere. It doesn't have to produce anything. It's just like, I like sitting with my cats. I like sitting with my cats and stroking them. They're happy. I'm happy. We're all happy. No one's going to come knocking at my door and going, bro, we saw you stroking your cats. Did you want to sign a contract with, you know, Scramble to be our next ambassador? No, I stroke the cats purr. If I could purr, I would purr. We're all happy. It's good enough.
Yeah, it's something I've really thought about myself over the past, I would say 6 months or so, because growth is awesome. And again, like you were saying, the origin story, and you decide that you want to change and you really go after it. And I wonder if there's a point where you're just thinking, actually, why am I actually doing this? And okay, I've come to a certain point. There's still this journey over here, but then am I actually taking all of this in? Am I, like, maybe the art is actually not in striving for anything and just being content with what you've got now? And again, it sounds so obvious, but really, I think integrating that is a whole other thing. Are you actually happy with where you are now, just going by your day-to-day life? And so it's something which, especially if you're ambitious and you want to keep changing, actually integrating that, I think, can actually be quite difficult when you've spent, like you said, if you've had maybe a challenging start. I say challenging start, it's all relative, but if you've decided you want to change and then it almost becomes part of your identity, are you able to slow down and actually think, you know what, I'm happy here, or at least I'm happy here. Still got my goals and ambitions, but day to day, can I take it in?
I think it changes over time. And I think that's exactly what should happen. When you're younger when I'm younger, you will naturally be, you will lean towards being more ambitious because you've got nothing, you know nothing, you've done nothing. You don't really know what you like. You don't really know what you don't like. Some people do. They're lucky, early on they decide, when they're 10 years old, I want to be a concert pianist, and that's, but most people, you ain't got a clue. Don't know what you're doing, where you're going, who you are, what you like, what you don't like. And you want to go and make your sort of place in the world. And as you get older, you work through those things of what do I like, what do I not like, what do I want to be doing, what do I not want to be doing, what's important, what's not, what do I want to achieve, what am I prepared to sacrifice to achieve? You actually go through those things. And as you go through them, you, I think, sort of end up coming back to the point of you just want to sort of be content and be happy. But what you need to be content and be happy changes over time. If you have somebody who's 80 years old and you ask them, what do you want to be content and be happy? They're going to tell you, I want my body to stop hurting. I want to be able to taste my food. I want to be able to see properly. If I got family, I want to hang out with my family. It's nice when it's sunny, or it's nice when it snows, or I like it when it rains. That's what you're going to get from most people. If you ask an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, bro, you're going to be somewhere between like a Scarface movie, the FA Cup final. It's a completely different vibe, journey, pathway, that you're on. Like coming back to Batman's probably like a real good analogy. The only good Batman films, the Chris Nolan ones. He's the kid, his parents die, he goes through all this trauma, he becomes Batman. In the second film, he realizes okay, this is just like an ongoing battle, whatever. In the third film, he realizes I just need to leave. What do I actually want? I just want to hang out with Catwoman on the beach. That's the story, right? He goes from a kid, he goes through all the difficulty, he goes through all the growth, he becomes Batman, he makes a difference, he becomes, the hero that Gotham needs, not the one it wants, and he does all this crazy stuff. And he's a billionaire and whatever. In the end, what does he want to do? He just wants to go and chill in the cafe, drink a coffee, sit in the sun, put his feet up, hang out with someone that he wants to hang out with. So, he kind of goes on that journey. Another really good, really, I think is a fantastic film is Last Samurai.
Okay.
Have you seen Last Samurai? Oh, dude, I'm not even going to spoil it. It's a brilliant film. You'll know what I mean when you get to the end of the film. The end of the film ties everything up and you're like, that's awesome. But, it's a journey. You sort of go on the journey and then you realize at the end that everything you want is sort of inside you, but it's not enough to just go, everything I want is inside me. You gotta do the journey to get back to that point. That's the kind of the way it goes. Otherwise you're kidding yourself, because you will have that temptation. I still want to do this. I still want to go there. I still want to get on the podium. I still want to do you need to do that stuff. That's normal. That's healthy. That's how it should be. And that I think maybe tapping into a little bit of maybe the stuff that often you might cover on your podcast. I think as well, that's like being a man, going out and going, I'm going to stick my flag in the ground and go, this bit of land here, this is mine. I claim it. If you want it, come and get it. That's being a man. That's part of being an adult.
Well, it begs the question, when do you actually become a man? When does that transition happen? Where's the rite of passage?
The point at which you become a man, and I would say an adult, because I would say this is equally applicable for women and men, is the point at which you accept that everything in your life is down to you. That's when you become an adult. Before that point, you're a child, because you're always blaming or, saying, oh, it's because of this or it's because of that, or if that hadn't have happened or whatever. You're a child. You're just asking your parent to validate, is it all right that I feel sad? Or, once you just go, do you know what? If I feel sad, that's on me. I need to figure out how to not feel sad. You're an adult.
And that happens at different stages of people's lives, right?
And often it doesn't happen. I mean, look around you, look how many people are blaming where they are or what they do or how they feel or whatever on some external thing, which, yeah, A, you're still a child, and B, like, you just give away all your power. You know, it's if you want like a jiu-jitsu equivalent or whatever, it's like, oh, I'm under side control. Okay, so what do you do for a while? I'm just lost, right? Just wait until Mike comes around and pulls the guy off. Or you go, no, what you have to do is like learn loads of escapes and keep practicing them until one of them works. And then you realize, oh, I can get out from side control sometimes.
When did that shift happen for you? I presume based on our conversation pretty early.
Yeah, my mum said it to me. My mum said the point at which you'll become an adult is the point at which you realize that everything in your life is down to you. I think she probably said that to me when I was a kid, you know, not like, right, today's the day, but God, we were discussing something and she said that to me and I was like, yeah, sounds a bit shit actually, but yeah, okay.
I've always had that vision when I get a kid, I'm just going to hammer in all this growth mindset stuff. Just like, right, it's all down to you.
Right, but on the other side, I mean, obviously this is very be individual to people's own experiences of being young. But I mean, you're never going to be as happy as when you're young because your parents deal with all the bullshit. You just are like tired, not tired, excited, not excited, hungry, not hungry. Like that's all you got to worry about, right? It's like, what are we playing? How long till school finishes? Who's coming over later? Is the sun going to be out so we can ride our bicycles, or we're going to find somewhere to play football without that geezer kicking us out because it's too noisy? Like those are the only things you worry about. And as you get older, you've got more and more stuff to deal with. So I think, I mean, I don't have kids, but I think with kids, you very much want to bubble wrap them in a way of giving them that environment to play in. The play has consequences. Like, you're shit at football. Like, he keeps beating you at football. Like, if you want to get better at football, okay, these are the steps we can take, right? You can go football, put you on football camp. You can go and speak to my friend. He was really good at football. He'll show you some tricks. We can do some squats and some sprints and like, you know, it's not just, oh, well, don't worry, you know, it doesn't really matter that you lost the football game. No, you're going to know you lost the football game. But if you just want to play football all the time, that's fine. I would try to enable that as much as possible because, you know, at some point like that stops and then you kind of, you know, you're sad for those. Like at my age now, I reminisce with my friends and we always have a little bit of sadness about going back to those summer holidays of like going to Cyprus for a month, living on 400 quid for a month and just having the best time, just complete chaos, mayhem, but do it when you're young. You can't do it when you're older.
Yeah.
You know, so I think there's both. I think there is the sort of, you want to grow, but you also want to sort of stay young. You want to enjoy the moment as well.
Yeah, and I remember hearing people tell me, because it was, I remember before I went to South America, and there was, again, we were talking about fear before. Oh, but what? How's it going to look on my CV? There's going to be a gap. And it's like, mate, you're so young. Just do whatever you want to do. And yeah, it ended up being the best experience of my life because I was just so present and just having so much fun. And it's funny because you mentioned the whole idea of like kids and how it's the happiest time of their life. I imagine a lot of the time kids actually want to be older. I don't know if they're always fully happy being a kid because they're thinking, oh, well, can't wait till I'm out of school and haven't got my parents telling me what to do anymore. And so I wonder if even kids can't really take in the moment. You
never appreciate it while it's there because you want to be. I want to be 16. I want to be 18. I want to be 21. I want to get a car. I want to move out. I want to get a girlfriend. I want to do this. I want to do that. But you know, there's like a meme that pops up on my Insta a lot. I'm a super fan of memes because memes now is kind of like the the 2026 version of just sort of comedic comment on society, right?
You've got great memes.
I share them. I like them. You know, they
always resonate whenever I see yours.
Yeah, but you know, there's one of like, you know, kids always want to, when they're little, they always want to be able to go to bed at any time they want. Turns out it's 9 o'clock. Like once you get older, you're like, fuck, I'm knackered, man. I just want to go to sleep. Like getting into bed at night is always like, oh, thank God for that. I'm back into my bed again. So yeah, you know, but you have to, there's no shortcut for the journey. I think that's the difficult thing is when you're like trying to get somewhere, and that's a natural thing. You want to gotta get to the end of this thing, but the going on the journey, you have to go on the journey. You know, you get to Mordor, it's 3 whole books, 3 whole films for the hobbits to get there. Like you got to go on the journey to get to that point. You know, you got to be 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 80 or 90 to realize you only ever wanted to go to bed at 8 o'clock in the evening or whatever. But in the middle, you don't. In the middle, you want to stay up all night. When we're on them holidays, we're getting home at 6 o'clock in the morning, going to sleep on the beach. You know, like you there's different stuff you want to do along the way, but it changes.
Yes, and it makes me think, well, I'm going to go on this journey regardless, as long as my health's still there. And so if that's the case, I may as well just try and enjoy it at every stage of the journey. And I remember talking with people who were a bit older and asking them what their regrets were. And it was more than once it came up and they just said, oh yeah, I haven't got any regrets, although I just wish that I'd enjoyed the process a bit more. And it makes me think, actually, when I look back, what was you can look at all these pictures and stuff, but what was your internal state during this time where you actually really enjoyed it?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because it can be difficult to enjoy things when you are actively trying to shape them. So like if you're let's say with this podcast, like if you're sort of thinking, right, I've got one eye on the clock, one eye on the cameras, I've got one eye on the light, I want to keep the conversation flowing, I'm trying to listen to the guest, I've got one eye on the screen, like, you know, your brain's trying to sort of do quite a lot of stuff. So it then becomes very difficult to go like, how am I feeling? Yeah, it kind of feels nice. Because I was used to sitting on that chair. Like this cushion is actually really nice. Right in my back, it's like this is how I like to sit on the couch with a cushion. You know, it's just sort of nice. So I'm just kind of have like these little moments of, the couch is good and the cushion is good and I feel kind of just not hot, not cold, nice and warm. I just got the clothing just right. But mostly I'm more trying to engage in the conversation and pull memories out or think about things or be sort of actively participating in what's going on. So I don't have the mental capacity to just go like, am I just enjoying the moment? Because for that, I think you need to be very peaceful. You need to be very sort of quiet and just, you know, because it's a bit like a meditation, right? You know, being in that moment is like observing everything, like the light and the sound and the smells and the breathing and how's my body supported and just really tuning into, but then you tune everything else out. I mean, that's kind of the point with meditation, right? Is that you get rid of all the noise, but often the noise is the thing you're doing. So you can't tune it out all the time because otherwise you'll do nothing. You just, okay, come back when I'm 40 and I'll tell you whether I'm still having a good time or not. So again, it's a balance, right? There's a sliding scale. I think if you at your age are already aware of that, just being present and just thinking, am I enjoying it? How am I feeling? Let me just internalize this so it's there for me to draw on later. That's already, you know, really insightful and skillful because most people, they don't do that until they're older. They do that when they're my age, when they're looking back and going, shit, I didn't do this for the last 30 years. I must start trying to do it now. They're busy at the beginning just trying to get somewhere. And then when you get somewhere, then you realize, okay, well, I'm still the same person. This is a bit like, what you asked me earlier about the training jiu-jitsu or whatever. It's exactly the same as pretty much when I walked in at the beginning. You're just like, it's still jiu-jitsu. I still need to do the same stuff. I still got a few aches and pains and injuries and whatever. Okay, I've got some different sort of stuff to do, but fundamentally, it's kind of like I'm going to sit down in front of someone or stand up in front of someone. We're going to see what happens.
I was thinking this, like, okay, so you have this milestone in jiu-jitsu, like the black belt. Then the same week, it's just going to look exactly the same, isn't it? And then you just continue. The
people who you can't beat, you still can't beat. The people who you can beat, you can still beat. It's nothing really changes. And it's actually, again, it's a sort of, this is why it sounds like one of the sort of corny Brazilianisms, again, pops up on Insta. The most important belt in jiu-jitsu is the white belt, because that's when you turned up and started training. You got people who don't train and you got people who train. People who train, you will at least have a white belt, because day one, you go in, you put on a gi, you put on a white belt, you're a jiu-jitsu guy. That's the most important belt. The black belt is, the closer you get to it, the more you realize, like, shit, man, I really thought I was going to be Batman. This time I was going to be Batman. No, you're still not Batman. You're still just you. And you're still like, I can still get tapped by a white belt. I can still just make the most stupid mistakes. I can still get injured. Like you've learned a skill, you got experience, you build physical resilience. Like all these things are amazing. It's still one of the most fantastic hobbies I think you can do. You're still you. And as you get better, you just realize, well, this is not going to, it's almost like this is not going to fix my problems. It's not going to fix I just thought, once I get a black belt, I will be this or I will be that. It helps because it develops things along the way.
It's the character traits.
Yes, but there's still stuff there that you're like, damn, this still didn't go away. And I'm a black belt. Yeah. I still don't like whatever public speaking, or I'm still not good at meeting people I don't know or whatever.
What stage would you say you're at? You're talking about like the hero's arc or the hero's journey. And then in terms of like what you maybe set out to achieve, let's say in your 20s, for example.
I think my, again, like coming back to, let's say my younger experience, when I was young, my parents hated each other pretty much, shouting arguments every night. I'm upstairs, me and my sister, I can hear them arguing, so it was always like a bit sort of stressy. So I was always like, I just want no stress, no money worries. I don't really need like that much more. I just kind of want to be like happy, chilled, comfortable, can get some food from M&S, whatever, which is pretty much where I am now. I've got a great relationship with my wife. We got a jiu-jitsu mat downstairs. I got people that come around to me to train, got resistance that I go to. My job is good. I kind of enjoy it. I'm there 4 days a week. I've been working a long time. The mortgage is nearly paid. I'm in a flat, but I love my flat. Got my cats. So I'm kind of content. Now, really, all I'm looking for is stuff that makes me happy, whatever that is. So sometimes that might be, you know what, I need to go Euros again. I need to see if I can win a gold medal. I need to push myself. Like, it might be that, or it might be, oh, you know what, once I finish from here, I wonder where the cats are going to be. One of them's probably going to be in the lounge. One of them's probably going to be in the bedroom. I'm going to grab my laptop, go in the bedroom, jump on the bed, stroke the cat. Like, it might just be that. I try to be a little bit more free-flowing with, how am I feeling? What do I want to do? But I've already sort of gone through I've gone through periods at work where I say periods of like years or a decade of being like, I don't think I can do another day. All right, one more day. Do that for 10 years. One more day. But then at the other side of it, I'm like, was it really that bad? Probably weren't that bad. I have managed to pay the mortgage down now. Didn't get kicked out of the flat. So once you sort of come out the back end of things, you always sort of have like a little bit rose-tinted glasses looking back. Oh, how difficult really was it? Well, it weren't that difficult. But man, there were times when I was like, on the ragged edge of like, I'm going to just lose it. I'm going to do, have you seen Falling Down? The Michael Douglas movie? It's like an old movie where he's just got all this stress going on and he goes into like, it's like the movie equivalent of McDonald's, and he wants a ham and cheese omelette, which is like the breakfast thing. And it's like 11:05. They're like, we don't serve it after 11 o'clock. And he just loses it. He gets a gun. He ends up taking a hostage. Just the whole city shuts down, and just because he can't get his breakfast that he wanted 5 minutes late. But it's because of all the other stuff. Man, I've had plenty of those times when I'm like, I just want a ham and cheese omelette. But then you go, one more day, one more hour, one more patient, one more conversation, one more whatever, just one more step forwards, and then you come out of it the other side.
It kind of just disarms a lot of the worries, isn't it? When you sort of look back and you're thinking about all the stuff you were worrying about back then and how meaningless it is now compared to back then. It's a weird thing to think about. That's why I don't know if you ever did journaling, for example.
Haven't.
But that's a fascinating experience when you look back on your journals from a year ago and you're like looking at like your thought process, like the stuff that was on your mind a year ago. It's like, wow, a completely different state of mind.
I mean, the closest thing that I've had to that was I went through a period of doing short films. So I was writing a lot and making short films. So I maybe made like 7, 8, 9 films and little, short stuff, but had written other stuff that I never got around to doing or didn't finish or whatever. And even that, when I go back and look at some of that stuff or read some of that stuff, and you're just like, wow, this is like a different person. I don't even know how I came up with that or what was I thinking or, but yeah, I mean, it's being able to reflect back on stuff it's interesting, and it's sort of, I don't know, it's like if my mum shows me, I found your English books from, when you were in whatever. Do you remember when you wrote this story or you wrote this? And I'm like, well, I wrote this card about thanks for my birthday present and whatever. And it's like, it's nice because it's sort of like a memory. But I don't really sort of dwell on that stuff too much. I'm trying to be much more just like in the moment of how am I feeling? What am I doing? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? Like, not so much like, oh, I need to learn from this or learn from that. A bit like, what we were saying right at the beginning. I just don't really resonate with measuring stuff. I'm just like, let's just see where we go. Let's just, what's the next part of the adventure, rather than, all right, I need to analyze this and relay it to that. And why did it cause this? And I don't know. It's whatever happened, and I'm here now. There'll definitely be things where you're like, well, I'm not going to do that again. That was just a silly thing to do. Remember that. Don't do that again. But mostly the other stuff is just kind of, you're just at the beach and you're just hearing the waves coming up and down, but you're not counting them or measuring which one comes further. Or it's just like, it's nice. They just go over my feet and I like it. But again, I think it's different when you're older. My outlook, my experience, my everything is completely different to when I was younger. I don't try to dwell too much on what actually happened or why I did certain things. Like, it's done anyway. I mean, what's done is done. You're not going to undo it.
And you're probably at the point now where you can just understand things pretty instantly, like you were saying before. So you can make these observations about things and the kind of life lessons, if you like. They probably just come to you pretty quickly, I'd imagine. Like, okay, I've learned that. Yeah,
I think as well, when you've done more stuff, then you're experiencing new stuff much less, and it's actually sort of it's not a good thing. It's a not fun thing, because you go out to eat and you're like, I've eaten that. I'll have that because I know I like that, and I haven't had it with beetroot before. Okay, I'll have that, and then I have it, and then I'm like, oh, you know what this is like? This is like when we had that other, So having like a new experience is much more difficult when you get older. I think that's one of the nice things when you have kids, is that they relive experiences through their kids, because your kid, when Santa brings the presents, or they have sports day, or it's their birthday party or whatever, Like you kind of get to experience that with them. You know, you just sort of do it through their eyes. But as you get older, there's less new stuff to do because you've done a lot of stuff already. So you're not going to find yourself in situations which are unfamiliar to you because a lot of stuff you've already done. So you're like, I might do it slightly differently to what I've done before because I remember when I'd done it last time, I'd done it like this and that turned out like that and that was good or that wasn't good. But it's less kind of like, oh, what life experiences am I going to draw on to prepare me for this? It's just like, no, the life experience is when I did it last time. You know, this time I'm going to put stickers all over my suitcase because I remember last time someone took my suitcase because that already happened. It's not, I haven't been to Mexico before, but I remember when I went to Argentina, my suitcase got taken. So this time I stick stickers on it. So then, you know, it's I think again, it's just something with experience. There's less novelty and more repetition. Maybe you get another chance to kind of do something again, but there's less new things.
Yeah, and I imagine maybe you're craving the novelty to a degree, which is where you suggested, okay, you're at a point where you might pick a little challenge or something to strive for, which, yeah, seems like a really nice place to be. But
even that, it's not so much. That's not so much for the novelty. That's more for the like, can I still put myself back into like go time? Because you're always going to get to the point of like putting my feet up. Like I do hill sprints, right? I've got a little hill around the corner from my flat. It takes 30 seconds to run up. It takes 90 seconds to walk down. And I try and do it 3 or 4 times a week. Let's say 3 to 4 or 5 repetitions. I get up at 5:40 in the morning on the work days. I do my breath work. I go and do my hill sprints. Every time I do it, it's worse. It never gets better. There's the odd day when I fly up there and I'm like, oh, what did I eat last night? Right, pasta. Put that in. That was a good dinner. But usually I'm just like, man, what? This is just not good, not enjoyable. Feel like shit. Get to the top of the first one. My heart's banging. My lightheaded. Right, walk down, catch your breath, do another one. Like, but it's the same. It's like just do it once more. Just do it once more. One day there's going to be a day when I just go, I'm not doing it again. Either can't, won't, whatever, not available, can't do it. But until then, I'm just like, let me just try and have a bit of like, that's my flag, it's still in the ground. If you still want that bit of ground, you still come and take it off me.
And that's your motivation to keep getting up every morning and doing it?
I mean, for the hill sprints, it is. I mean, Jiu-Jitsu, I just love Jiu-Jitsu. And everything else, like I said, I'm at the point where I've tried to create my life where I enjoy the stuff I do. Like I like my drive to work is nice. It's against the traffic. I'm on B roads. I've got the car that I like. You know, I've tried to make my life in the way that I enjoy doing the stuff that I do. Jiu-Jitsu is still like a challenge because you still get in there and people are going to just try and take your arm off or choke you unconscious. So that's my kind of, still my bit of kind of physical, mental, like, can I get in there on a Wednesday night and someone's had a bad day and then they go, do you want to roll? And I'm like, fuck. And you're like, okay, let's see what happens. But yeah, the hill sprints is much more like, I just don't enjoy it. You know, I just hear that David Goggins little on my shoulder saying like, are you a pussy or are you going to do it? No music, don't put headphones, just fucking go there.
Yeah, old school.
Do it. So yeah, it's more just to force myself. Like, you know, I sort of, I had this model, which still is my model, but actually lately it's evolved quite a lot. But I kind of had this model of like, what you're putting out, you have to be very careful what you put out to the universe because it will reflect it back to you. So I'm putting out to the universe, I'm fucking getting up in the morning, I'm doing my breath work and I'm going running and you better not try and get in my way because otherwise it's going to be a problem. So now I'm telling my body, I'm telling my energy, I'm telling everything. Listen, I'm going to sleep. You better let me sleep. I'm getting up. I better feel at least 50% when I get up. So I'm doing the hill. So rather than just being like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to feel in the morning and, oh, you know, I just generally go on. If it ain't raining, I'm going. If it rains, occasionally I go, but usually I won't. I'll just do something else. But if it's dry, you're going. I don't care how you feel, you're going. Even if I do 1 or I do 1.5, you go. Now go out, it's dark, it's freezing cold, put my hood up, put my hat on, put my gloves on, I walk to the corner, I walk down, go. Just, you're going. But then I feel like I'm pushing that out to the universe, like I'm going to be able to do that tomorrow. So, and I can do it tomorrow. If I put out to the universe, I don't know whether you're going to go tomorrow, then the universe is like, well, we don't know whether you can go tomorrow. We won't find out till tomorrow. So I kind of feel like I'm trying to project out. My vibration is, I've got 1 more left in me.
You're making your internal reality your external reality in a way. It's kind of a way of, I suppose you could say, manifestation in a way, or you're kind of creating that. So
experience. this is the revelation that I've had recently. So there's a guy that I follow called Cliff High, who's a complete craziness, but a fascinating guy. And he's been talking about manifestation and etc. for the past sort of 6, maybe 9 months. And then I've been following, I forget the guy's name, but there's a guy, British guy, lived in the Caribbean, and he was a big manifestation guy. There's loads of videos on YouTube. He wrote loads of books. But anyway, I've been going down this sort of manifestation rabbit hole. And I was always very much like, I watched The Secret. Have you watched The Secret, read The Secret?
I listened to the book.
Listen to the book. Okay, so I watched, there was a movie, 2 hour, basically it's the book, but a movie. So I watched The Secret and I'm like, this is awesome. And then I had this crazy experience straight after watching it where I had a bill, as this was at a point of time going back a few years where I was stressed at work, short of money, mortgage was going up, interest rates were going up, blah, blah. Got this bill. I can't remember the number, but I can remember exactly how it happened. It was a weird number. It was something like £382.45 from the electric, because they'd been underbilling me for like the last 4 years. And then they were like, oh, we've realized, right, you need to pay this. And I was like, shit, like that is not what I need. And I watched The Secret and I was like, this is really cool. I'm going to do this. And I was like, I think I wanted a Nissan GTR. I was like, let me do Nissan GTR, and I'm in the car and I can feel whatever. Obviously, I never had a Nissan GTR. 2 days later, I got a refund from the water company for the same amount of money. 354.26p. It was about 15p difference. And I was like, this shit works. This is the universe saying, this works. Now you got to figure out how to actually do it. But I'm going to just give you a free one. I'm going to give you a crossface so you can know that the crossface is real, that jiu-jitsu is no joke. Now you got to train for 10 years and you'll be able to do jiu-jitsu. So I was already like, okay, I know it works, because this is not, I don't care what maths you want to tell me. You ain't going to tell me that's a coincidence. A million universes, that is not happening. So I watched The Secret and this happens. 2 days later, I'm like, okay, it's real. How do I do it? And then it's been something that I've been sort of had in the back of my mind of, like I put out to the universe, I'm going to go running in the morning. I want to be fit. Jiu-jitsu, for me, again, jiu-jitsu is rolling around on the floor with other people, right? What do you do when you're a kid? What happens at lunchtime at school when it's sunny? Straight on the grass, British Bulldog, bundles, whatever. So I'm like, I'm going to do what kids do. That's going to keep me young, right? I go there, roll around on the floor with other people like a child. I'm going to be like a child. That keeps me young. So, I'm trying to sort of keep all these processes there going, but I don't ever sort of have a framework where I can really conceptualize and understand the process of how it works. I'm like, I get it, it works. I got cross-faced. I know it works. I just don't know how to do it.
It's like an inner knowing, even though you can't explain it.
Right.
Type of thing, yeah.
Now I start listening to this Cliff High stuff and he just literally lays it out and I'm like, this is like blowing my mind, because what he's saying resonates with me and it actually answers a lot of questions about a lot of other things. And I'm like, that's why that is the case. And this is why this is the case. And this, like, there's loads of other things that once you go down this path and you're like, shit, man, this explains like a lot of stuff. So the idea is which I'd already come to, and I've talked about a lot on the podcast, everything is energy. So everything is energy, and physical matter is just like a condensation of energy into a form that we think is a microphone, a leg, a jacket. But if you go down on a fundamental enough level, you're just going to find a wave form, like an energy wave. And this was my concept of like health and being healthy, that the ultimate medicine is a placebo effect, where you just think yourself well. And then one level above that will be things like sound healing or aromatherapy or whatever. And then a level above that would be like massage. And then a level above that would be like herbs and natural compounds. And then a level above that would be medication. And then a level above that would be surgery. So these are like less blunter and blunter tools for dealing with being well. The ultimate state of being well is you just go, I'm well, I am bulletproof, and nothing is ever going to change that. And then I'm going to just one day be 100. I'm going to be like, do you know what? I think I'm done. And I'm going to go to sleep. And that'll be that. This would be the medicine, right? And then every layer that you go away from that, it's getting worse and worse. So I already this was my sort of model in my head. And then, so I've got that. So I'm trying to kind of manifest that. And I'm like, but it's still not quite, there's gaps in it where I'm like, well, I believe it and I feel it, but like I couldn't write it down. I couldn't write the numbers down kind of thing. So anyway, coming back to this recent sort of side of it, everything is energy. Ultimately, everything, therefore, is consciousness, because the only real sort of energetic form is consciousness, is that we are projecting out our consciousness into the universe, and that's the energy that's flowing. God consciousness is the consciousness that creates everything. You have God consciousness, universal consciousness, that knows everything, creates everything, is everything that ever was, will be, can be. It's obviously bored, because like you know everything that could, will, ever has happened and ever can happen. So you're like, I want some novelty, coming back to what we were saying earlier, right? So it takes little pieces of its own consciousness and it puts them into little separate bubbles, and it says, forget that you know me. Go and have a experience over there. So this is our physical reality that we experience, is God consciousness making a construct and taking bits of its own consciousness, which is the soul, putting it in a capsule and saying, right, 3, 2, 1, you've forgotten that or whatever, go and have an experience, so that we could potentially have an experience that God hasn't had before. And it goes, awesome. I never ate strawberry ice cream before. This is killer, like wicked. I love it. And that's who we are. And if we are that, then we are part of that God consciousness. And if God consciousness is creating this reality for us to have an experience in it, then we are co-creating this reality to have an experience in, because we are part of God consciousness. So let's say God made 100 people out of 10% of itself, then you've got 0.1% the same power as God for creating reality. Obviously, you've got your 1%. But that's why it works, manifestation. Because this reality that we're in is just a projection of consciousness. And you are projecting a little piece of that consciousness. So if you figure out how to project that consciousness in a way that physically manifests what you want, that is literally the explanation of how that manifestation process works. We are all co-creating this thing we sit in. And when you tune in the way to do it, how to get the crossface properly, shoulder goes down, not up. My weight goes here, not that. Then you go crossface. I'm kind of doing the same thing I was doing before, but suddenly everyone's tapping. It's the same thing. So this is then my like, wow. And then this explains as well why. So if you go back to sort of the classical explanations of religion, you're like part of God, but you're separate from God, and there's this and that. And then there's always these questions of like, so what about kids that are born with leukemia? Right? God loves you, God this, God that. Yeah, what about this kid born with leukemia, lives, I don't know, 6 months, doesn't even have a chance to, and then they go, oh, well, something. But if you come back to universal consciousness is just throwing darts and going, I want to have a novel experience, that covers everything. That covers every eventuality that you can come up with, even the ones that you can't explain from a loving God or a rational God. You just go, no, that's him. That's him. I say him, it, universe, just throwing darts and going, let's have an experience. Is also bored, also is trying to, maybe it's a fractal of how we are, is also just going, I want to have an experience. Let's just create this thing and see where it goes. And this, physics is starting to now, mainstream physics is starting to come around to this idea that everything is consciousness. And, quantum mechanics already has been saying this for the last 20 years, that the observer effect, right? You do these wave particle experiments, and depends what you look for is what you find. If you look for a wave, you find a wave. If you look for a particle, you find a particle, but you're doing the same thing. So you design this experiment to split a photon or whatever it is, and you go, we want to measure the wave that we get. You find a wave. But if you do the same experiment and you say, this time we're going to measure it to measure how big the particle is, you get a particle. Because it's what you're looking for. And so it was always like, oh, the quantum, the this, the that. But what it actually is your consciousness is projecting into reality. We want to measure a wave. So a wave is what you get. It's the same this saying of like, or a question of like, if a tree falls over in the woods and no one hears it, does it make a sound? You can't know. But we're probably starting to get to the point now where even the physicists will say, no, it doesn't. If no one hears it make a sound, it doesn't actually make a sound. It only makes a sound because you hear it.
Well, there's so many tangents we could go down here. That point is interesting because it ties in with the idea right at the start where we talk about something's only real if everyone else is giving attention to it. So that's where it ties into mainstream media, news, fear, and that's how we sort of create our own reality in a way. And
so now you've got 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 1,000,000 people all partaking in the construction of this reality.
And because everyone's talking about it, it's made real.
So this is the thing. So the way that it works is so this is the actual way to do it, right? In simplified forms. You put yourself in a state of it's already happened. You attach to that state the emotion that you would feel of it's already happened. And ideally, you do it at the point at which you're just falling asleep or just when you're waking up. So in this point when you're in between your conscious, unconscious, dream state, not dream state. So let's say, for example, I am thinking like, I want to have a 4-bedroom house. So I make it as real as I can make it. Like, what does it look like? Where is it? How does it, the roof color and everything. But more importantly is like, how does it feel when I'm there? Like now I feel content. I feel like I won. I feel like good. I feel safe. I feel like I'm a king. I feel like I can get that monkey off my back from when I was young, when people said you'll never buy a house, like right into that. And what's the emotion of it? Like feel content. I feel happy. And you do that as you're going to sleep. And if you do it right, the universe goes, oh, this is what we're creating next day, week, month, year. And it creates it. It's just rendering a different, stuff in the video game. Like when you would play like those first person shooter games, if you look like far off in the distance, it doesn't render it. It's just green. When you get closer to it, it does the bushes. When you get really close to it, it does the leaves. but it doesn't render it until you can see it. It just goes, it's green, bro. Like if you never go over there, I'm not going to make bushes. It's a waste of time. Because consciousness in that way, it's probably has a certain amount of resources. It's like, we're going to just render what you're looking for. If you're not looking for it, there's no point in rendering it. If the tree falls over and there's no one there to hear it, there's no point in making a sound because no one's going to experience it. So it's pointless. The process is the feeling of something happening, you just really internalizing it, making it real, feeling that it's there, and knowing that it has happened. And maybe the point to add to that, which helps you to know that it has happened, is the concept of time. Because the concept of time that we have been told is also inverted and bullshit. Time doesn't move. It doesn't flow. You ain't going back in time. You ain't going forwards in time. Time doesn't exist. The ever-present now exists. Everything else is just, like Matthew McConaughey says, right? It's a fugazi, There is no real forwards or backwards. Everybody, everywhere, is just experiencing the same moment at the same moment. And everything else is just gone from our consciousness, or we're going to bring it into our consciousness. So when people will say, oh, well, how can you influence something that's going to happen in the future? There isn't any future. You're just taking what's rendered in the ever-present now and saying, I want to render something different in the ever-present now. I'm just literally like I'm playing a piano, right? I'm playing and I'm saying, well, I want to play. It's not like, oh, I've got the has got to happen next Tuesday. I'm just going, no, instead of pressing these notes, I'm going to start pressing those notes. And now that is what gets rendered. That is what's real. So there's also this concept of time, which spins us in these weird directions of thinking, oh, well, I can't influence that, or this is difficult, or this and this. And this, in fact, comes back to what I was thinking about more with my black belt speech when I, eventually get my black belt, would be that at the beginning, you're kind of thinking about this journey that you're going to go on. But as you get closer to it, certainly for me, you're like I said, I'm still just me. It's still just now. It's still just today on a Thursday at 7 p.m. Nothing's changed. I'm just still in the moment. I'm still just here at a grading. There's people around. There is no real course of time in that sense. I'm still just existing in that moment, but now someone's putting a belt on me.
And I suppose an element of this is that you're doing the things each day that you would do in that. I know we've talked about future not existing, but as a black belt, you'd be doing the same things that you're doing now. Maybe that's a small part of it as well. You hear a lot of people talking about jumping timelines or bringing the future into now. And I think there's a lot of stuff like this because the way you explained it was great. Very often when I've read books about this type of topic and it talks about time and it talks about quantum physics, it all makes a lot of sense to me in the moment. But then if you ask me to recap everything, I'm like,
yeah, there's a brilliant quote. I think it was maybe like the president of America or whatever. He was on a transatlantic crossing with Albert Einstein. And the quote is, Einstein explained the theory of relativity to me every single day until I was utterly convinced that he understood it. So I have exactly the same thing. You listen to something or you watch something, you read something, you're like, awesome. And then someone goes, explain it to me. And you're like, no, I can't. I literally I thought I had it, but I haven't quite got it. But this, this is what I mean. I feel like when the last few months, it's like when something clicks, like with the Jiu-Jitsu, something clicks and you're like, of course.
And it probably clicked at that exact moment for a reason. Perhaps you weren't ready to receive it fully beforehand.
For sure, yeah. I mean, the exact, and then again, back to what we were talking about earlier. So that's the journey. You can't rush. You can't get to that end point. It's like those things will kind of come and find you. The teacher will appear when the student is ready, right? When you can receive it, it will come to you.
Yeah, this resonates a lot because the amount of times I was like, right, I want this thing now, and I'm looking so far in the future. And then it's only maybe a year after where I'm like, okay, now I see why this is coming together now, as opposed to back then. I wasn't ready for it back then. I wasn't, because great example is the community that I'm building and the momentum that's building now. I wanted like way past that like a year ago. And that was like, right, I'm working towards that. And now that I've got a bit of it, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, and that was a reasonable step up for me. If I'd gone straight to there, it would have been so overwhelming. I wouldn't know how to handle it. I wouldn't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, this is why, rather than trying to force it all the time, I may as well just let it go, do the things I need to do, but detach from the outcome, and it will just flow. And I will trust that that was meant to come in at that time.
Camera die.
Oh, it's the battery. And just like that, we've changed perspective.
We manifested a new seating arrangement.
We have, just like that. I just blinked and I did all the exercises, and then here we are.
So it works, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so I think we were talking about that manifestation process and about building your community and looking.
Yeah, well, it's always something that I've thought about, was that it didn't always make sense, right? We set these goals, right? I want to achieve this in a year, 2 years, 5 years. Well, then why a year? Okay, because it sounds nice. Why 1 year? Why not 300 days, 250 days? Like we put a timeline on it. And I think that's when we try and force our scenarios a bit, and I think that's where we kind of get in our own way.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, right? Because I think if you're going to that sort of like growth, difficult area, I'm going to challenge myself, I'm going to go for growth. You kind of need to put a time expectation on it. Otherwise, nothing forces you to really do it. Like if you say, I want to grow a really cool community, that's it. Like when? When by the time you're 60? Or you want to, so I think it's a bit like, you say you should have strong beliefs loosely held. It's kind of like, you're making a commitment, like I want to get a certain amount of stuff done by this time next year. But then you go, but actually after 3 months, I'm going to reappraise that because I'm taking note of what's happening and the process and the journey, and this changed that. And so actually now I'm going to say, now I'd like to have this done by 18 months time, which is different to what I started with. So I think it's good to sort of put sort of some parameters to your goal if you're trying to reach something. And I think a time frame is a good parameter to add in there. I don't think you should be sort of wedded to that. You should allow yourself to reassess and go, well, that's obviously not quite right. A bit like with the podcast. When I started doing them, I'm doing them this way, but then I realized I should put the camera here, or I should do a better introduction or whatever. Same thing, right? You take some feedback from yourself or from other people or from how it's going, and you go, okay, I need to reappraise it.
Kind of just learning to be flexible in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Still within the parameters of your project. It's not like you just go, I'm not doing it anymore. But you go, okay, I need to revise my plan a bit.
And you mentioned something there, this idea of coming from God, and we've got that godlike consciousness. I remember reading A Course in Miracles, and that was brilliant. I don't know if you've come across it, but it kind of likens, if you were to take God as the sun, and then the rays of the sunshine, we are kind of like the rays of the sunshine in a way. And it was interesting, you alluded to this idea of, let's try out this earthly experience. And one idea that came through that was that all of this is kind of like a dream in a way. So we dreamed, what would it be like if we ended up here? And then it was interesting, you talked about religion as well. I think sometimes a lot of people are pushed away from God entirely because of their views of religion and control and the agendas that people placed on it. And sometimes I think what A Course in Miracles does quite well is it takes a lot of the words or teachings of Jesus, for example, and it will then give you a different perspective on it, which perhaps you might have had before. So, for example, these ideas of heaven and hell, and perhaps this is our experience of hell, and hell is the illusion that you place yourself under, that a lot of the projections in the world, for example, perhaps don't reach that level of consciousness, perhaps. And it kind of gives you a different perspective on a lot of traditional teachings, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good analogy to that, going back again to like a jiu-jitsu analogy, is that quite often, like if I go to a seminar or like a class with someone who I don't normally train with, often I'll pick up like one detail or one concept or one idea or one movement or something, and that will completely change my whole way I roll. I'm not looking to learn a new form of jiu-jitsu, and it is incumbent upon me still turning up 3, 4, 5 times a week and rolling for that to become something that I can implement. But you definitely come across people or books or teachers or whatever it is that just sort of gives you a flash of something which you then incorporate into your model that you're already working on and already chewing over and whatever, and go, that's actually a novel way to think about the teachings of Jesus, because I only ever sort of heard it taught from this perspective. And it, quite often it can be quite a small thing. The power of that is, I think, quite dependent on how much of your own thinking and your own sort of evolution you're doing. Because if you don't never think about anything, when you hear stuff, you're like, that sounds interesting, but you don't think about that either. If you're really on this journey where you're sort of growing and exploring and considering this and thinking about that, and then you get this little kind of spark of something, you're like, oh man, it's like a firework that goes off. But if you're just sitting there watching telly, whatever, and a firework goes off and you're like, there's a firework, but you're still just sitting watching telly, right? If you're out and about and whatever, and then a firework goes off and you're like, wow, that was amazing, I wasn't expecting that, and look, it's underneath the moon, oh wow, the moon's really bright. And so I think you've got to be in the mind state to benefit from those kind of insights or teachings, or
got to be kind of searching for it in a way,
or just receptive and ready to kind of absorb it and benefit from it.
Yeah,
because you, whoever, we can all sit in the same lecture and all take different stuff away from it, or same seminar, right? We can go to the same jiu-jitsu seminar, and you will come out of it saying, oh, you know what, I didn't realize like the arms up here was important. And I'll be like, that's like fundamental. I just didn't realize like I could put like Dan's seminar at the grading. The thing for me was when you sit into S-mount was the bottom knee actually going behind the head so they can't move up the mat. I always had it here. And then I was like, but then they wriggle away from me. So this was like a light bulb. And then I start applying it in other positions as well, like stick an elbow there or like block their head from vertically moving away from me. You probably got something different out of it than that.
Yeah, well, my whole thing was that you could have just focusing on one arm out, for example.
Same seminar.
Yeah, same one and two different perspectives.
And then someone else said to me, I fell asleep twice. Completely different experience.
Wow.
So...
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because
same seminar.
But that's a great example of manifestation in a way, or just having an open mind. So if you go, and I'm not saying this chap necessarily had that point of view, but for example, if you were to go into a jiu-jitsu seminar and you think, oh, I already know this stuff, then that will be your reality. Whereas if you go in with, okay, well, I might be brown belt, but let's see, let's just observe this. And that was a good reminder. And I learned a bit of this. And I think even that's a great example of we make our own reality.
Yeah, I mean, literally, literally my current model is we make our own reality. Like we literally render, for want of a better word, what our intention is, where our vibration is. That is literally what we create into existence. But yes, on a more sort of ambiguous level, yeah, the intention you go into something with is definitely going to influence the experience you have with it, or the lessons you learn from. If you go into something thinking, "Oh, this is going to be terrible," it probably will be. And if you go into something thinking this is going to be fantastic, it probably will be. Or at least it will have the potential to go in that direction more than the other direction. If I go for dinner and I'm thinking this is going to be the greatest meal I've ever had, I'm probably going to find some things that were good with it, even if it ain't the greatest meal. Oh, you know what? I was a bit disappointed with this, but that was amazing. And my wife and I are foodies, and we've been for some meals where you're really excited about going and it wasn't that great. Because we're really excited about going, we'll always be like, but you know what? I loved the chairs. The chairs were awesome. And I thought the temperature of the restaurant was brilliant. It wasn't too loud. It wasn't too quiet. Like everything was nice. Just the food, I think, was a bit under-seasoned or whatever. But we still we'll pick up the positives out of it. Like, this was good. That was good. That was fun. This we really enjoyed. That wasn't. But we still had a good time. Like, no problem.
And you can train that over time as well, just by, in the earlier stages, just consciously choosing what to give your time and focus to, and choosing to appreciate the great things in your life in different scenarios. Kind of reminds me of, again, you mentioned the restaurant example there, but sometimes when I was younger, I used to have the opposite belief. So I used to think, it's better to have lower expectations if your expectations are too high, and then you can go into stuff and then you might be pleasantly surprised. So I've almost done a 180 in a way, which is go out expecting things to be great, and chances are they will be great and there'll be nuances to that. But yeah, I did a complete 180 because I thought, okay, if I don't expect anything, then nothing can go badly. But that's, again,
I think you can do both though. So as of my more recent sort of model that I'm aware of now, yeah, you should set an expectation, not of an outcome, but of a vibration. Like, it's gonna be awesome. Like, I'm gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be good. Whatever. If there's something specific, then maybe you can try to ping that into happening as well. But at the same time, you're kind of setting a floor of like what really would make me unhappy about this. It's not like, I'm setting the bar low so I can't be disappointed. But it's kind of like, if I'm just going there to have, sit down with my friend, have a conversation, I hope my vibration, whatever, we're going to talk about this, and someone's going to hear this podcast and they're going to say, that was awesome. Do you want to come on my podcast? And then Joe Rogan's going to hear it and he's going to go, I heard you mention me on that pod. Do you want to come on my podcast? Like, I would love for that, to manifest that for myself. But sitting and having a chat in Tom's studio that I haven't been in for a while is awesome. However it goes, I was just happy to come and chat, right? It's a nice sort of, and it is what it is. We'll have a fantastic experience from it. There'll be levels to what might come out of it, but I think you can still set you can make it difficult for yourself to be disappointed, and still have lofty goals for how you want it to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's definitely nuances to all of this stuff, for sure.
And it is a constant learning process and reevaluating. And, like you said, you used to set like this, now you set like that. Probably in another year or 2 years, you'll change things again and something will feel a bit different. And, I think that is again, like if you bring it back to the concept of universal consciousness, maybe you are a part of that consciousness, and that is just God, in inverted commas, trying to have an experience. I mean, that's literally what you're doing. You are trying to fulfill your point of view being here, which is to have an experience and not even necessarily learn something, but experience something. And within that experience, there will be learning, because that's kind of what comes from experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely my current sort of model that I'm in. But like I said, strong beliefs loosely held. I reserve my right to change my mind at a moment's notice.
Well, it's a good point. I think sometimes we've got to ensure we're still adaptable. I think when you're so certain with your observations, I think that's when the learning can stop. And it's definitely something that I've learned over the past year or so. I was finding out all these answers, and it was so exciting. It was great. And I was so certain in my belief, and I observed myself. I would like listen to more of the stuff. I'd be like, oh yeah, I know that. And it's like, come on, man. Like, but it's no shit.
I think that is human nature. And I think also, you do like learn more stuff. So there is, you do know more stuff, and you do find that there are less things that blow your mind. When you're young, it's like every 3 days, like you have a conversation with someone, or you have a lesson at school, or you watch a film, or you listen to a song, or you read a book, and you're like, oh man, it blew my mind. And then as you get older, it's one a week, and then one a month, and then one a year. And then just you remember, okay, I went 3 years and nothing really kind of changed. And then something happened. And I was like, amazing. That's opened up a whole new kind of avenue of experience for me. I think that's kind of like a normal thing. But again, that's a bit like your Jiu-Jitsu journey, right? That journey from day one to blue belt, you go from you don't know Jiu-Jitsu to, man, you roll with someone who's day one, the day you get your blue belt, and they won't be able to distinguish you from Jack Burrell. They're just like, this guy smoked me and this guy smoked me. Don't feel no different when you come in on day one. You're just like, whoa, wizard. So the beginning of the process, you're going to learn more. You're going to learn more, grow faster, and it's more uncomfortable. You literally get smashed the worst at the beginning, because you don't even know how to like protect from the worst kind of smashing. At least along the way, you realize, okay, like tuck your elbows in, tuck your chin in. You're still going to get smashed, but slightly less badly. I mean, it's the same, right? As you go and you learn more stuff, your rate of learning is going to slow down because you're more and more aware of a wider variety of things. You've experienced more stuff.
Although that is one of the cool things about Jiu-Jitsu, because every single class I'm learning something new, and it just blows my mind. Like even today with like the grips, when you've got someone in close guard and they're grabbing onto your belt, for example, I used to always just try and push like forwards, and then actually, like even today, they'd be going, oh, but you can like grab it here and then pull upwards, and I'm like, what? That's blown my mind. And it's been 2 years, so I think that's the beauty of it. It's you just never stop learning.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely what a few people that I had on the podcast, older people, had said to me, and it was a similar experience for me. I've had the same experience twice. Is that if you come into something like Jiu-Jitsu where you're learning, you will go back into learning mode with everything.
This is why they say you shouldn't really retire, because then your brain stops working.
Literally. Like I had the same thing when I started making films. I knew nothing about film. So I was like, which camera should I get? Like, how do you write a script? Like, what's the format? How do you frame it? Well, Like I didn't know anything. So I spent, like a couple of years, like reading stuff and watching documentaries and reading books, going on courses and whatever. I started remembering stuff from my degree that I'd forgotten 15 years earlier. Like literally someone will come in and I'll see something and I go, that's a birdshot retinopathy. And I'll be like, I don't even know what the fuck that is. Apart from someone said it to me 15 years ago and I looked in a textbook and then I'll go and look and I'll go, that's what it is. But if you'd have asked me 6 months earlier, I'd have been like, pigment, I don't know, some pigmented lesion is flat, I don't really worry about it, whatever. But from my brain with the film stuff, and then the same with the jiu-jitsu stuff, then I start remembering, learning, whatever, like neurons literally start firing up again and they're like, let's go.
It's a great reminder as well. Do we take for granted sometimes how much we know now? So, again, jiu-jitsu is a great example, but I think even podcasting stuff, like the admin side of things, like there was a point where I couldn't tell you, how do I edit a podcast? How do I upload it onto Spotify, YouTube? Like that, again, seems obvious for us. But then there was a point where I was like, how the hell do I do this? And then,
same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and even now, like building the business side of things and like terms, like, I know, again, it can put people off, but if you first start a business, you hear like lead generation, ICP and like all these different things. And I can see why it would throw people off because they're like, what is that? But if you've got to, I think, go through that to then get to a stage, even a year in, and just go, okay, right, this is all obvious to me now. And I think that's the beauty of learning something that is so obvious to you now, but there was a point where you couldn't even recall what the terminology was, let alone what it does. Yeah,
it's enjoyable because you've got another skill, another experience, another set of tools to apply to either the thing or to apply to different things. But also, if you think about whoever it is who's the expert in your field, like day one, they knew nothing. They either learned it or they were taught it to the point at which they become teachers. So you then have that sort of gift that you can give to other people to say, I can teach you how to do that. I can show you how to do this. Oh, you were starting this. You know what I found was a problem was this. The better way to do it is like that. I didn't realize till 6 months in, it's with jiu-jitsu, right? Now when white belts turn up, you're telling them, listen, if someone grabs your belt, like this is a better way to break grips. Because someone taught you, right? And now you've got it. Now you've got that thing. Now you've got that concept. Then
you can pass it on to someone else. It's wonderful. Yeah.
It's a really nice sort of feeling. On the one hand, you have to be a little bit careful to check your ego because you can get a little bit like, come and sit with me. I'm going to tell you like from my vast banks of experience. Like sometimes people will ask me stuff at work, and I'm like, take a seat. Let me tell you how smart I am. But I'm like, no, let me just sort of get down to the nuts and bolts and just say, no, look, the reason why this happens is because of that. I know it looks like it's this, but this is not important. It's because of that. That's the thing that causes the whatever response. That's what they asked. That's what I don't need to tell them how clever I am. They knew he's clever enough, ask him instead of him. So that's it. That's enough. That strokes my ego enough. They actually came and asked me something. Let me just tell the answer without doing the pyramid fingers and crossing my legs and, puffing my chest up. Let me just get to the point and we're all happy. So yeah, it's lovely to be able to teach things to people. And the only thing you have to guard against is that sort of like, I'm the expert. Because then again, you stopped learning, right? Once you're the expert, who's going to teach you anything? Nobody. And then you start missing things, and before you know it, you get tapped.
That's it. And there's always going to be someone who's ahead of you on any ladder, which is kind of freeing in a way. It kind of takes the pressure off.
Yeah, you're just. I mean, I think that's what certainly what I realize as I get older. Like there are some legitimate pressures, right? You need somewhere to live. You need food to eat. You need to be able to pay enough bills to sort of survive. And ideally, you need some decent relationships and some decent recreations. Like those are not fundamental, but they're pretty close to fundamental. Without those, everything's a struggle. Because you want to just do jiu-jitsu, you can't because you ain't got time or you're too knackered or you can't afford to even go training or whatever. So, you've got some sort of basic things. But over and above that, you find with a lot of things, once you get them, you realize like the thing was getting it, not having it. The thing that's important is getting to black belt, not having a black belt. Having a black belt is like having a fucking what? It's a piece of cloth. It's irrelevant. Getting there is the thing that's kind of important and enjoyable, and that there's a good little piece of wisdom I heard that the saying was like the destination is not important, it's the journey. But actually, the journey is not important, it's the company along the way. It's kind of the experience and the interactions and, not even just the journey, because you're not really going on your own. You're going with other people. Again, jiu-jitsu is like a prime example, right? You can't train on your own. You can't do jiu-jitsu on your own, right? You would take any training partner over no training partner. Even the worst training partner is better than no training partner, because otherwise you're doing something else. You play piano or whatever, bang drums. You're not going to do jiu-jitsu if you don't have someone to do it with. And if you broaden it back to that concept of like co-creating this reality through our manifestation and our vibrations, then like literally you're kind of on that journey together with everyone else, because we're literally kind of building it all together as we go.
Yeah,
I think
there's a lot of lessons from this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally it's like when you asked me to do it before, which was a few months ago, right? And I was like, I want to do it, but something was just like holding me back to say, let's set a date. And again, I was like, I'm not going to try to second guess myself about send you a message saying, just like, whatever, stroke the cats, go to work, go jiu-jitsu, it is what it is. And then I think when I saw you at the lunch class, right? And I was like, I've been wanting to talk about this manifestation stuff with someone for a while, because I've been chewing on it and thinking about it and playing with it and whatever. And then I was like, it's the podcast, right? It's perfect. Timing's good and everything's, so yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff to reflect on and chew on. But I mean, hopefully it is just certainly it is for me. Hopefully it is for you. Hopefully it is for other people who listen. Just some other little bits of ideas or concepts or little sparkles or little fireworks to go, I might incorporate that, or I might take a bit of this, or I might disregard now that, because that sounded like nonsense, but the opposite could work for me. And that's the kind of maybe the goal of these sort of conversations and these kinds of podcasts is just chewing stuff over, but letting other people chew on it as well.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just you might plant a seed somewhere, and at the very least, I think it gets you thinking about what your stance on things are, or how you feel about something, or whether something's important to you. I think there's always something we can learn from all our experiences, and yeah, I've certainly enjoyed this. It's got a very, very relaxed feel to it. I feel like you brought the white basement energy here today.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, it's always just you being you, doing you. Even though you might think today I'm going to be podcast me, or tomorrow I'm going to be jiu-jitsu me, or it's kind of still you. Yeah. So I guess I'm going to always kind of end up doing the same conversations. I mean, especially like in here anyway. I mean, it's the same place that I did all the other ones. So yeah, I mean, if you enjoyed my one, then I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, we'll definitely put a link to your podcast in the show notes for people to check out.
Yeah, maybe if people haven't heard enough of me already, which might be the case. But yeah, otherwise there's another 120 episodes if you're really that short of other things to do.
And perhaps we can put a link to that guy you checked out.
Yeah, to Jeff Thompson.
Yeah. And
I'll put a link as well to Cliff High, the manifestation guy. He's got a Substack, so we can put a link to that as well. But
brilliant.
Yeah, and if anybody knows Joe Rogan and you want to reach out to him and put me on the podcast, hook me up.
There you go, manifestation in real time. We'll hop into the closing traditions to wrap things off.
Okay.
The first two questions are asked by myself every week, and the third question is asked by a member of the Growth Voyage community.
Okay.
First one, nice and simple. For some, others find it quite difficult, but it's a song recommendation. Could be your favourite song.
Just one?
I mean, it started off at one, and then people just couldn't list one, so they'd list many. So
I mean, I got loads of different stuff that I like to listen to. I like to listen to, there's the part of the second Tubular Bells where it all ramps up and goes quiet. I always have that on the end of my breathing process. The song that I love at the moment that I really like is The Gambler, Kenny Roberts, some country and western guy. It's the song. Have you seen the Venus and Serena Williams movie? King, whatever, the Will Smith about the tennis players.
Okay.
Amazing movie. But there's a bit basically where they get in a camper van and they drive to Florida, and that song was playing. It's called The Gambler. That's a real good. It's kind of got some little life lessons in it. So cool. that one possibly is my kind of current favorite song that I just listen to, and I'm like, yeah, I like that, The Gambler.
Wicked.
Yeah, so I'll go with that.
I'll definitely check it out. Or add it to the Growth Voyage playlist. Second one, you've actually mentioned one already, but you're welcome to mention a different one. It was a book recommendation. Probably 100% that Jeff Thompson book. There's a really good book which is called The Alchemist. It's like I read it when I was younger, and it's basically like an Arabian Nights kind of story about this kid who can't even remember exactly what happens, but basically he sort of goes on this crazy journey and comes back to the beginning again. But the journey is what sort of is important. Kind of ties into our discussion today a bit.
It's literally that kind of coming back to full circle, but having to go on the journey to realize that you were at right at the start, you were where you wanted to be anyway, you just didn't realize. But yeah, as a sort of a practical book on a many different levels, Jeff Thompson, Watch My Back is a really good book, especially for young men. Firstly, if you read it, you will never get into a fight ever. From a self-defense perspective, because although it's not a self-defense book, it's a book where he basically, most of the chapters are fights that he had in nightclubs, and he explains how they started, why they started, how they could have been avoided, etc. So it's a very practical, pragmatic way of looking at physical confrontation, how you can avoid it. Secondly, it kind of tells you how to win it. And thirdly, it's a really good book on just sort of developing as a man, going from being very timid and very sort of scared to go out in the world to being like point man, like, you know, send him, he'll deal with it. And it's got some really, really good kind of little stories in there of even him where he's talking about times when he was really afraid, but this is how he coped with it and what he did. And it's a good book. Watch My Back, Jeff Thompson.
Brilliant. Yeah, you've definitely sold me. We'll add that to the playbook. And the guest question, have you got your tinfoil hat?
Always.
It comes in from Nathan Cusack, who asks, in your opinion, who or what is at the top of the hierarchy that controls the earth?
Well, so I changed my mind very recently because of this God consciousness manifestation thing. So really at the top of the evil hidden hand pyramid will be some kind of demonic, alien, anti-human entity which probably feeds off of negative, loose energy of humans, which is why they constantly invert everything, create conflicts, start wars. You know, it's almost like a blood sacrifice, but it's the energy, not necessarily the blood, that these dark creatures feed off of. And you could call that the devil or demons or whatever. But if now I expand my model that everything comes from God consciousness, there is no pyramid. There is no top of the pyramid. You know, it's like the Matrix. There is no spoon. Because it's just God trying to have an experience. So if you'd have asked me 6 months ago, I would have said some kind of demon, alien, devil, something or other, which feeds on negative energy. But that is also within this projected consciousness. So there is no pyramid.
I like it.
It's my current... But like I said, likely to change my mind. I reserve the right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Because God's the creator of all, then... It's
just part of the video game, right? Why does your character keep getting, you know, burned by fire when it walks through a certain thing? It's not because there's a dragon there. It's because someone built a video game.
And then you can expand into ideas of... I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole, I suppose. But, you know, ideas of... When you
reframe it like that, I mean, that is definitely going to give me another few years of waking up in the night and being like, oh, because I mean, you know, I hadn't actually thought about that question specifically. Because I very much was, yeah, there is a pyramid, and it doesn't make sense that all this craziness that goes on would be about money or what, because they own the money. The money's not even real, you know. If you own the bank, like why do you need more money for? You print it out of thin air. Like that can't be the answer, and it can't be this because they own all the land, and it can't be that. So it has to be some kind of negative, truly in inverted commas evil force that creates all this carnage. But then that's just part of the video game, right? That's the end of level boss. But it's not. There's nothing there. It's just part of the game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
That leads you into a whole other world of possibilities of things.
Stay tuned for part 2. Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome. I've really enjoyed it.
Me too.